am willing to put out the number there because I've heard it from enough places to actually be confident in it. But it is like in the area of 2 million, like between 1.5 and 2 million for the two players combined.
Yeah,
that's the sticker money from the last major, just all gone.
I mean, yeah, basically,
that's a nice Christmas bonus for someone.
Yeah, but I mean, that supports the idea that Heroica now do have some money to spend around.
Best esports odds, VIP program, and a variety of bonuses. Fast and easy withdrawals. Bet on every possible CSGO matching tournament, as well as any other esports game. Only on 22Bet.
Are you tired of your boring old skins and looking for beautiful new ones? Tradeit.gg is your place to go for easy and secure trades within seconds. Simply pick and choose whatever item you want to trade from Tradeit's huge inventory. Verify the trade on Steam, and you're ready. With the lowest fees in the market and a beautiful, easy-to-use UI, Tradeit also offers you the option to instantly sell your items for cash. We accept a wide variety of payment methods. Tradeit.gg is the go-to place whenever you want to try out fancy new skins. Start trading today at Tradeit.gg.
It's a good vibe, train. It's a good vibe, train. It's a good vibe, train. Good vibe, train.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Counter-Strike fans across the globe, welcome back to another episode of HLTV Confirmed. It's the 28th of November, 2023, or for me and other Australians, it'll be the bloody 29th. Thank you for tuning in. It is good morning, good evening, good night, good afternoon, wherever the fuck you are. We are back, and I want to have a quick shout out to our sponsors, 22Bet. Remember to gamble responsibly. SteelSeries, they do some good gear, mice, keyboards, all that good stuff. Been doing it for years. Almost as long as our guest tonight has been playing Counter-Strike. And Tradeit.gg. If you want some skins, you know where to go. They're a fucking marketplace. Now let's get through some intros. Striker, your hair's looking good tonight. The cat's on the windowsill. How you feeling?
The other one's on my lap. I'm feeling good.
Okay, well, you could almost be some form of it's early for me. Some evil villain. You could turn around in the chair. You could be maniacally laughing, stroking the cat. Have you ever considered having that type of an approach to life?
I think they don't do that anymore in the Bond movies, so I guess I'm just behind my time.
Okay. Prof has gone for the gamer camera angle here today. He's had no issues setting up the podcast. He's not stressed at all. He's looking very relaxed and, as you can see, impressed. Prof, the levels right now of the heart, how are they? Are they mild? Are we bouncing through? What's the whoop saying, mate?
I don't know, like 60%, let's say, like a nice 90. I would say that's where I'm not too stressed. Like, honestly, you did all of the prep for the show. I was like, I'll just walk in. It'll be fine. Of course, it's not fine. The camera just doesn't work. It's working. Oh, no, it's not working. So I guess you just have to have it sometimes.
No, we'll take issues. And look, see, my camera just spazzed out as well. So this is just the internet. Now, look, if I start lagging, I'm on 5G, so blame that. And I'm on the other side of the world. So I probably already am lagging. But look, let's get down to business, because I guess for this evening, I mentioned it. He's a bloody vet of the scene. It's, I'm going to butcher your name. Joona Leppänen. And that's my finish. I really like it's so sing-songy, but it's great to have you here, Natu. Perfectly timed. I messaged you like a week and a half ago about this, and it's all kind of panned out perfectly with the news. Thank you for joining us. Now, before we get into the hot seat, before we get into the meat and potatoes, we were just talking about a blizzard. Is your life like the movie Frozen?
More or less, yeah. At least the part that it's cold, and right now it's extremely cold. For November in Finland. So.
What about the singing part?
Yeah, is it a musical every day?
I mean, I have a daughter. She likes singing, so
Yeah.
Huh?
Okay.
I can't
guess.
imagine. Are you do you do the esports karaoke? What's your go-to song on that?
I try avoid it. I haven't been singing in years in karaoke. I don't think I've ever done it in an esports event actually. So
Okay.
only with friends. And it's been many moons ago since that was a thing.
So no. Okay. So it's only cold in the virtue of Frozen, and things are pretty animated, but not in the sense of an animated movie. All right. I wrote some notes. I did write some notes. So look, I just want to make sure that I do my introduction correctly for maybe those who aren't too familiar with you, Natu. Now, you are an ex-Counter-Strike player over multiple iterations of the game. You've been doing it longer than most people even know how to put a mouse and keyboard in the right direction, considering how old we're getting in the new generation of Counter-Strike coming through. You are a co-founder of ENCE, the marketing director over there right now, and an absolute legend of Finnish Counter-Strike, someone who had to play with Tommy back in the day. So you've seen some shit. You've really been through all of it. How's life in general at the moment? I know I spoke about the Blizzard, but it's always good to actually no. Let's get into the hot seat, because the first little thing I have is catching up with Natu. That'd be perfect. Lucas, roll the bumper. Now we're warming things up with the hot seat. Now that's great when the weather outside is frightful. What is the perfect sauna conditions? Is it like 80 to 100 degrees Celsius? What are we talking about?
Depends if it's a wooden or an electric. With the wooden, one you can have it higher, but I think for one that is with an electric sauna stove, probably like an 80. Because the steam, the air gets a bit dry. But yeah, that's the difference, I guess.
So you're doing wet saunas or dry? We're only doing dry saunas. You're not doing like steam rooms.
I think that's for pussies, to be fair.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, no, fair enough.
So what's the preference? There's a question on the Twitter sphere. Wood or electric?
I would all the way. I mean, I have an electric one at home because it's just more convenient. I have an option to put a wood one, have one installed. But just for the convenience, being a lazy bastard, at home, it's better to have an electric one. It's faster. You push a button, it goes on. Then push a button, it goes off, right? But for, a summer, you have a summer house, very typically a lot of Finns have one. Like you have a sauna by the lake, for example. You always want to have a wooden heated one in those conditions.
Less of a chance to burn the house down.
Huh?
Less of a chance to burn the house down.
Yeah, that's true. I guess. But I mean, I do have like probably the most famous hot tub of all of Finland, which is heated by wood. So, right next to my house.
Who's the last Counter-Strike player that's been in that hot tub?
Actually, I think that's Allu.
I don't know why, but I knew the answer like before you said it. It's so funny.
Wait, who was it? I lagged.
Allu.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. 2
summers ago, maybe. Like not this one, but the previous.
So you need to get more Counter-Strike players out there then.
Maybe. I mean, if you Disturbed used to play back in the day. He was there as well. That same.
He counts.
The same occasion.
Okay.
I've had over the years. I've had Sado, Henry. Then those guys came over one year for an assembly, and I
think I've heard the story
over.
about Henry in that hot tub. So there's a lot of running around, I believe.
Yeah, well, let's just put it this way: it's not for this show. I don't think that story.
So. No, there was no clothes. It was it was one of those type of occasions, wasn't it? Maybe a few beverages consumed.
If we continue in this direction, we're gonna have to change the category on Twitch, I feel like.
Yeah, well, or maybe the platform. No,
mate, they've made a whole fucking hot tub section. Just put that in the background. We can basically get naked. Who gives a fuck? Apparently these days. All right. What else has been going on, Natu? Anything else that people should know other than the Counter-Strike focus stuff, or do you want to get into that? Is there anything that's not business? Because it's great to hear that you just. I love it. I've got a sauna in my house, a fucking hot tub. Being a Finn sounds awesome.
I was shoveling a lot of snow today. It's been snowing a lot, so it's not been a very exciting day in that sense. Apart from that, it's a busy week at work because of the Elisa Masters that's happening here in Finland. So that obviously means with. Of course, all the things that have been going on, announcing players leaving and coming and whatnot. or a player and a coach, then we're also obviously planning for an event, and we will have a massive presence there. So that's been consuming a lot of energy and time at work. And I mean, I thought, working for a team and not being a talent traveling everywhere would actually be a little bit more stable. But yeah, that was a good lie to myself.
Hey, don't
it's a
say
roller,
that.
it's a roller coaster, but it doesn't involve that many planes and hotel nights, I guess.
I'm working on my 3-year plan right now, Natu. Don't say that. I was trying to get an off ramp to do something a little bit more stable, and now you're telling me it's going to be fucked regardless. Like, okay,
it's all fucked.
all right. Well, look, let's get into some saucy stuff, shall we? Because as you just mentioned, the changing of a coach and a player. 24 hours ago, I imagine it was. That maybe I'm off by a little bit. I also just slept for 8. So if I missed any news, you guys can let me know. But we had Saw and Snappi. ENCE said goodbye to them. About 24 hours ago. This has obviously been something that's been in the works for some time, but I kind of wanted to start it at the beginning of when these rumblings began, because there's been rumors about Snappi to Falcons for quite a while now. Saw being in the mix, I think, is something that caught people a little bit more off guard, unless you're named Striker, the evil genius stroking the cat on the lap and knows everything that's going on in Counter-Strike. But I don't know how much you can divulge, but at what point did any conversations start for some of your players, especially these two?
I think, it's not more than maybe, I might be off by a week, but like 2-3 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, when like we know that there was a consideration from Marco's side of what he wants to do next. Of course, he's had offers throughout the years, a lot of them, considering how well the team has been doing. And now, as his contract was expiring, he was having a lot of different options. We were very much in the running as well in that, and it was a tough one for him to choose what he wants to do in the future. But yeah, I mean, it was I think it was about less than a month ago when it kind of like surfaced for us, and of course we kind of started thinking of the possibility. We were hopeful that he would want to stay with us, but of course we were thinking of plan Bs and plan Cs and plan Ds for quite some time, just to make sure that we were in a good spot going forward.
Now, I actually did some work for this one and read up some information. So the viewer, if they're not all plugged in, I can give them a little bit here. Now, I saw joined ENCE back in 2020 as a coach, and he came actually across as a player then into that coaching role. And you had Snappi join ENCE in early 2021. And then that's when the team essentially started to go full international, right? Moving away from the Finnish players like Dodo and Allu were some of the last Finnish players you had on the team. And then this iteration of the roster, the one that people might remember, is with Nerds joining early this year. I think it was back in February. You guys recovered from the whole Volder situation, maybe one of those forgetful situations in the ENCE office. They had like 110 maps played together. There were 2 semifinals, EPL 17 and 18. Trophy lift to IEM Dallas over Mars, a second place at IEM Cologne, a second place at Games 8. Really exciting Counter-Strike that was being played, right? The type of ENCE Counter-Strike was fucking fun. I'm sure giving you a heart attack more often than not. And you had some lovable personalities within that team. And now it's kind of all run its course and come to its end, and you've had to deal with this kind of I don't want to even call it like a roster shuffle period, because now it just feels like every day we're shuffling. That was actually a reference to a song, guys, 15 years ago that just came to me. I forget the name of them, but one of the guys had fuzzy fucking hair. So it feels like the end of the year shouldn't have been this tumultuous. Does this feel like it kind of came from nowhere, or you knew that it was going to get busy like this?
Actually, not too long ago, I still felt like, we were in a pretty good position, and it didn't feel like we necessarily would be getting hit massively by what's going on. It was easy to read between the lines, of course, like in the big picture, not just talking about us, but that like the second major not going to be happening until the early next year, that this is going to be a bit of a different end of the season. So in that sense, I mean, I guess I should not be like, no one should be surprised that and of course, considering like how well the team has been doing, IGLs are hard to be found, like really, really good ones. So I mean, yeah, I'm not surprised, but it is a bit of a mayhem going on behind the curtains for sure. There's a lot of things that are still bubbling, a lot of things that are like, I'm talking in generally speaking, that yeah, and the way some of the things are happening are not necessarily always. Let's just put it this way: it's not in the from the book of ethics how some of the things are happening out there right now. So, but that's what it is. We're dealing with a sport or a game with very little regulation in everything. So that's kind of nature of the beast. That sometimes it might get a bit feisty.
What do you mean not necessarily the book of ethics? From what kind of standpoint?
It just feels like there's literally collusion between like teams, agents, players, and just shit going on in the background. The
collusion's always a fun word, you know.
Yeah. just a lot of shit going on, but it is what it is, and you kind of have to live with it, and that's it.
So does it feel like it's backroom dealings like we had on Steam once upon a time where we're all IRC, but you have to deal with the contracts and the agents going on at the same time?
Yeah, no, pretty much. Yeah, it's pretty much just the big boy version. It's like, it feels like, I'm just laughing like it's like people are playing fantasy football manager, but it's in real life for Counter-Strike.
With hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of buyouts that just seem like impossible to manage. It's like, man, some of these buyouts I'm hearing about, like, where the fuck is the money coming from? Does this shit grow on trees or something? Have I missed the memo?
Yeah, I mean, considering it's Esports winter, as we know, I guess we're going to dwell into that a bit later as well. Yeah, it does raise a question in me as well. Like, does money actually grow in trees, or how does it work? I mean, we don't have any money trees in Finland. That's for sure.
I was going to say, cold. It needs to be in hotter climates.
They're burning it all in the sauna.
No, I was going to ask if it was like frustrating, because obviously, like, you pride yourselves on not taking any investment money, and being profitable for most of your tenure as an organization. And I mean, it's got to be frustrating to some degree, sometimes to have to deal with all the money that is flying around everywhere else, if you don't have that in your pocket.
Yeah, I mean, sure. It is an industry where spending more money means getting more, I guess. But at the end of the day, I also pride in the fact that we've been able to manage to build world-class teams multiple times with reasonable budgets, still players being paid well. Yeah, I mean, I guess also like in the sense that we haven't just spent a lot of money in other games and did stupid stuff like that. We've really been hyper-focused in Counter-Strike, whereas I feel like a lot of organizations are struggling because they're just simply wasting money in different games that have not returned or have not had returns that they were expecting. So yeah,
I think we're kind of leading into the whole org/economy side anyway. So I think we can just go into that direction with the show just for a bit, because I think it's interesting. Like from things that I've also heard, it felt like this was a time not to invest more. It was like almost like as if orgs were, I mean, Chad, you were speaking about this like maybe a month or two ago on the show, that especially with the 2025 changes, with all of the leagues kind of going away and the revenue share from the leagues most likely going away, unless they figure out a new way to do stuff, that orgs are simply not going to earn the same amount of money in CS as they were, or maybe they will earn the same amount, but it's going to be harder to predict, right? So with lack of stability, you want to downsize, you want to be safe. And I heard from people that was the kind of the idea for these like few months, for the kind of until the next major. People are just gonna renegotiate contracts, be a bit more safe with spending. But then it kind of turned around with Falcons and maybe Liquid coming in with a bigger spending. Is that kind of how you thought it was gonna go, or did this kind of come out of nowhere? Essentially, the spending, yeah.
Yeah, I do agree. Like the vibe was that we were kind of getting a bit more sense in this scene and had that spending for sure. Considering that there's a lot of unknowns, as you mentioned, going into 2025 and onwards in Counter-Strike. But it's as soon as someone mentions Saudi money, everyone just lost their shit. It feels like, and that's when some kind of an implosion happened. And it's not just them. There's other players also in this market that are overspending. I don't think Liquid is one of them. Probably, like, for me, they are like one of the models of how things should be run, right? Like they've been doing a good business for many years. But It did feel like it would kind of get into a more reasonable kind of a climate, but yeah, that's when the whole Falcons rumor started coming in that they were going to be investing big. Then everyone just lost their shit basically. It feels like.
It is an interesting situation to find ourselves in because Falcons haven't been able to get the players they want. You want to tell us, is Snappi going to Falcons? And I guess Saul's not going with him. You can spill the news right here. Right? HLTV confirm it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I wish I knew.
This whole.
But you wait. But at least one thing that you probably can say, because it was like in the video, and I think like people maybe took the wrong impression, is that they're not going together. It's not a cap package deal type thing.
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Okay.
Maybe there's another back deal that you sell a player to someone and he sells him off the next day. Might be
a lot of snake oil out there, boys.
Okay, so that's a good little piece of information. That's something that I've missed in the last 24 hours. So that they're not a package deal. I thought that there
was a video where like I was praising you.
I'm
guys
just saying, not that I'm aware of.
Right. I was just like in your announcement video, like Snappi literally said like I'll miss working with Saw, like in the goodbye video, So I mean, obviously, you can take that as you want. It could be just him, being trying to be secretive or like trying to catch people off guard. But I can just say that, like, as far as I know as well, they are not going together to Falcons.
That would be some tinfoil type stuff. If you actually did say that and they ended up in the same team.
a great dynamic, though, because that's the thing. I didn't think, obviously, the two of them would go together to Falcons. But like Snappi and Saw, let's say in some kind of crazy world, could go to Heroic. Right, they need an in-game leader right now. You could bring Saw in. You've got the big boss, little boss combo, right? That was how they were affectionately known within ENCE and that relationship. And it's obviously a strong relationship considering what the team was able to achieve and elevate themselves to. So, like, I thought maybe that could be a possibility if they were going to stay together. But it's interesting that they're not staying together, and we had the departure at the same time. So, I'm actually. Okay, well that kind of makes things a little bit clearer for me of what I think is going to happen now.
I mean, I think a lot of people also kind of read that in the interview gla1ve gave, that gla1ve was kind of in between, like which coaches is going to be playing for. So yeah, I mean, I could say that the change was not initiated at the same time, or things were not happening simultaneously, but kind of back to back in a sense. So first we were without an IGL, and then as we were working in progress for a new IGL, we were also in a situation where we had no head coach. So
couldn't be more fucked in that regard. Let's just take out the entire brain trust of the team, the people who built what's been working for the better part of the last couple of years. That must have been, because essentially now, right, I guess we can start to pivot into talking more of the lay of the land and how we find ourselves. Now, we did a Vox Pop to get the people at home's opinion on what they think of the Snappi versus gla1ve. Obviously not head-to-head, but in terms of how this looks and plugging and playing with in-game leaders. And you mentioned before, it's not easy with the landscape of in-game leaders at the moment. They're definitely worth their weight in gold. And then to get good ones, especially one of the caliber of gla1ve, who still hasn't been on our screens in some time, at least in a successful fashion. I don't imagine you had... I'm trying to think of the choices that you would have even been able to look at for in-game leaders. So we're talking about Nealon, right? Maybe if we're really scratching different parts of the barrel here. gla1ve is someone who I think we've all known as kind of been, he's around, but I questioned, and I still do, like, I need to go and read that interview. I think that did come out while I was asleep. But one of the questions when I see gla1ve coming in is, what's the motivation levels looking like? You're already one of the most accomplished members at Counter-Strike, but we can bring the poll up now that we did at the Vox Pop. I think I was just looking at this on Instagram before. So the question was, gla1ve instead of Snappi, upgrade or downgrade? Now, this is one where, it's you can say a lot of things about this. Now, if we bring up the results, we can see people are saying an upgrade almost overwhelmingly, about the same. Slight downgrade or significant downgrade. So it's interesting to see how people have measured this. Prof, what do you make of these results here? Do you think people just see the name gla1ve and go, 4 majors? He's won 4 majors.
I was insanely surprised. I think no one that watches Counter-Strike actively can say this and be like, this is an upgrade. Like, it's insane. It can be better long term. But what we know about these two players today, in no way can you say like gla1ve is gonna make ENCE better than Snappi is making them right now. It's absolutely it's crazy. And when I saw this, I also think these are like the Instagram voters that are now included that like vote a lot more. There's just more people than on Twitter. It's that are maybe more on the casual side. That's my only explanation, because this is
Instagram users like pictures. Twitter users like words.
What does that mean, Chad? Though, what does that mean?
Well, I don't know, but I'm just kind of simplifying things here, aren't I?
I want to see the Twitter. I'm gonna look up the Twitter results just to see for a second. Yeah, I think on Twitter, 40% is slight downgrade. So but there's a lot less votes. So that's where the brain trust. That's where the smart people are. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But what do you think, Striker, when you see something like that, when you're listing the pros and cons of all of this? You stack up the pros for Snappi, you stack up the cons for gla1ve. Oh, sorry, the pros for gla1ve, and then you have your cons list as well. Yeah, fucking hell. How does it feel in your mind? What's your surmise of this situation?
I mean, I think the biggest thing that people probably have to be focusing on is that this is not gla1ve's project, right? At least not at the moment. Like that's what's also separates the two people, because Snappi was the one who, and Natu, I'm sure can confirm this. Snappi had a massive voice in the team in terms of like who to pick up, and still it was a big part of the scouting process along with Saw. And so gla1ve is coming into a full team, and instead of building it himself, so that's also a big difference. You're not going to be the guy who has the authority from the start, because you weren't the guy who brought them on and who now had that sort of success with them. So even from that perspective, just even ignoring their results recently, which obviously speak massively in Snappi's favor because of also gla1ve's kind of disappearance after the Astralis benching and the time that he had towards the end of his Astralis time. So just all of it together, like you cannot conclusively say that this is an upgrade because of this factor.
This is just a proof that democracy is like a failed concept. Like it's like people don't know what they're talking about. That's it.
Yeah, but someone gets elected.
But that being said, it's not like I personally believe gla1ve has something to give with the fact that his like last year in Astralis was horrible. This is just a fact. I don't think he would even say anything about this. Like we can all agree on that, but it's not like he is never going to do anything again. I don't think that's true. Like there is question marks about motivation. And I think this is kind of the question for you, Natu. Like what convinced you guys that he is the right choice?
A 4-time major champion.
I mean, it does count.
It does help.
He could be the worst player in the world if he's a 4-time major champion, in the past. That does bring something,
Yeah, a culture of winning. We were losing a lot of grand finals, you guys saw, right? No, I'm joking. But yeah, no, I mean, he was a top priority for us for sure as a player. Of his pedigree. Yes, sure, he was away for a while. Yes, he had to struggle with Astralis for a good amount of time, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to kind of look through what was going on in Astralis over the last couple of years. There's always a lot of variables that affect on the performance of the IGL, right? But still, he has to kind of carry that weight. He has to carry the responsibility of the results at the end of the day. And yeah, he was a guy who for sure we had questions also, like you have to answer to yourself like the motivation level, considering that he's kind of ran through the whole game. That was CSGO, now we're in CS2, I guess. So but still he really convinced us of his motivation and his will to work and wanted to be a part of a project where he does get to be hands-on, because towards the tail end of Astralis, seemingly he was a bit more hands-off. Obviously, I wasn't there, so I don't know how things actually worked in their organization. But here, most definitely, he gets to be much more hands-on and similar to what Marco was in the team, and making sure that in the long run we're making the right choices in terms of players.
So you're saying like they're going to have as much of a say in, or like as much of a power in scouting as a duo, even like together with Cuban, as you know the other two guys had?
The saying goes that always hire smarter people than yourself, and that's kind of what we went for here as well. Hiring smart people. They both convinced us that they have the eye, they have obviously the pedigree, they have the resume, and they have the hunger to work for it. So yeah, 100%. We want to listen to these guys and have them, have a say in who's playing in the team. 100%.
Not only is this like two difficult roles to fill, right? You look at ENCE right now, so in the current HLTV World Rankings, 4th, but regardless, ENCE one of the upper echelon elite level Counter-Strike teams it is right now. So results are, let's say, expected. I think that's probably fair considering the trajectory the team's been on. So you come into that as gla1ve, someone who you mentioned has the culture of winning, someone who knows what it takes to win. So that's great there. But you're bringing in the people who now have to decide how the team is going to play, but the team has already been playing a certain way that has been successful. And now you have this like couple of events at the tail end of the year where you needed to kind of feel each other out and work out, because I don't imagine gla1ve and Cuban are going to come in and go, all right, guys, we're doing things our way. They're going to come in and go, all right, well, fuck. It's the 4 players, and the style. You still got Nerds and Sampias here, and then you still got your backbone, your very pivotal impact players like your Madden and your Dihas. And then now gla1ve's going to come in. Well, he's not just going to be a Snappi clone, right? So things are going to shift around, but I don't imagine immediately. So it's hard to set expectations as a team right now. So you have some events coming up. You have an event on quote unquote home soil, Finnish organization, but no Finns in the team anymore. Goodbye, Saw. So what do you say? It's like, all right, guys, we're just going to go into this event and whatever happens. This is all just the feeling out process for the rest of the year. Or no, let's try and put in some good results. We don't want to go out in last place in these events. What's the conversation like that been with these blokes coming in?
I think the foundation, like the 4 guys have as a having played already majority of this year, the other 4, they have so much routine together. I don't think it would make sense also for a new IGLN coach to come in and just throw everything in the bin and start all over, considering that there is a lot of routines already built between these players. And so I believe that the approach they will have is that they're not going to start like changing a million things in the first outing. They started practicing together. What was it? Maybe Wednesday last week. And tomorrow they play their first game, so they have had solid 5 days of practice. So yeah, you're not gonna change a whole map pool and everything in that kind of time. So I think it's gonna be baby steps, and of course, like there's gonna be nuance that these 2 are gonna be bringing into the game. I think that's a positive thing, but then the foundation will be what they've been doing what the team has been doing for the better part of this year.
Did you have a conversation with gla1ve? This is the first time that he's going to be leading an international team, and we've heard from people like Kerrigan and Snappi, who have been of the opinion that it needs to be simpler, than like leading a team such as that and not having so much set structure, behind the team and how much like their reactions and all that. Then when you have a 5 of people who are speaking then their native language, did you ever have that conversation with him and what his approach to that is at the moment?
I haven't had that conversation with him, but generally speaking, I would assess, like I would think that is true, but at the same time, the high caliber players are so smart nowadays that the way you can play when you are not speaking your native language is relying more on individuals' decision makings and having certain rules of thumb you have in the game, or certain thing when X, Y, or Z happens, then there's just different reactions, for example, and players having the freedom to make plays and everyone else knows how to react around them. And I think we have those type of players in this team for sure. So I guess not having spoken with him about it, but I at least for me, it kind of makes sense that you kind of have to play that way.
Okay.
I have a question, kind of leaning on to, I think this was a conversation on Twitter a few months ago. I don't know what sparked it, but essentially this kind of community perception of ENCE being kind of like a budget team, kind of being happy to be a talent farm. I think that was a sentiment that was going around, and I think it was you that replied that was kind of bullshit. So I think this is a good place to start. So I'll just let you explain what you think, and then we can maybe roll on from that.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's been this ongoing narrative that I keep finding, like in different like your Reddits, HLTV, whatever, everywhere, basically saying that, you know, oh, ENCE is the team that is willing to just sell out the players and making good bank out of that. But if we look at history, you know, that's not true. We've what did I put? We've sold over this course of the time up until that we had sold what, Spinks and valdez, and Spinks was the only one that was an active player. And even then, we had a situation where we didn't want to sell him, but he wanted to go to Vitality. ZywOo was calling, so, you know, fair play. So there was not really anything we could do in that situation, even though we did ask him, like, hey, what does it take for you to stay here? Because we had a good thing going on at the time. Valde was a bench player when we moved over to TSM. So, but apart from that, you know, I think the track record we've had is that, no, we've gone for good upgrades, you know, doing these different movements. We've also spent money, you know, buying players out of their contracts, multitude of times. So no, it's not true. We're just playing this game our way. We're not going to be like the biggest spender. We're not going to go out spending crazy money on buyouts and things like that don't make sense. But we will also take risk, and we will also invest when it does make sense. So yeah, I mean, the evidence is out there. We're definitely not a farm team. We're definitely not a team that's just, you know, signing young talented players to then eventually sell them, because, well, we haven't done that. So yeah, end of it.
Yeah, I mean, it also helps that you guys were successful enough to be able to like keep those players as well, you know, because that helps.
But doesn't that build back into the model though? It shows what they're doing is like is working in itself. That's the thing. It's like, and I like, because let's get into more of the business side of things. This is a side that I really enjoy, because you were talking before about teams investing in other games and doing all this other stuff, whereas ENCE are a lot more Counter-Strike focused. Obviously, do you still have your StarCraft boy? Forget his name.
Cyril, no. No, he moved
over. That's a sore spot. Sorry, Natu.
No, it's fine. It's fine. He's that ran his course. I mean, basically won everything, became the GOAT in the game, and then moved over to someone's passion project in the US who is willing to pay well for playing StarCraft. So, you know, all good.
Not many of those left anymore. So
exactly. And we're trying to run a business here. And I think, you know, with all due respect to him, like, he's so much legacy and so much respect for all the achievements he brought in, but StarCraft 2 was like the only game that was not a business decision, like business-driven decision to keep. It was more about the legacy and the fact that he was the GOAT of his game. And yeah, but yeah.
Okay, so when we look at this this touted esports winter, right? It's something that I've muttered a couple of times from a position of ignorance, or just more so from the broadcast talent side, right? Obviously, we have discussions with the companies that we work for, and we hear things on our end as well. You see them with a lot of big tech companies that aren't even connected with video games. That they're, you know, we're in a recession, right? I don't know if I can use official terms around here, so nobody take this as economic advice. But as far as I understand, things are tough out there. Things aren't easy. So with that, you know, the first thing to go is strip clubs, and then after that would be esports teams. So you know, there's a downturn in spending in those areas. And as we move into this esports winter, you've been through a couple. I remember I had a fun one. It was like 2008 with the CGS, and then everything just kind of stopped, right? We had a recession back then as well. We had the GFC, the global financial crisis, for those of you old enough to remember. But we're in another position where it's slowing in that area. And from your outlook and perspective, is this going to be one that we can weather quite easily? Is this going to be one that's going to last a while? What type of entities do you think are going to be impacted here?
Oh, I mean, of course, we are in a curious position because, as mentioned, you know, we don't have venture capital, we don't have investors who are going to be asking for their returns because a lot of their investments are melting left and right and center. So for us, it's a kind of like like we're only responsible to ourselves. Of course, it's gonna it's hit us in the way that it's harder to get commercial partnerships. Long-term partnerships are way harder. You can definitely tell that. And yeah, just the amount of money spent in marketing in general right now is just trending down. I think there's been a bit of light at the end of the tunnel right now, I feel like, but in the big picture, that's been an issue. But I mean, we see it from like a lot of the American organizations that are VC driven heavily, are laying people off. You know, we all know what's going on with AG. 100 Thieves, a lot of these, big ones that have been investing a lot and trying to sort of buy a lot of market space and build big brands, but then not being able to get the kind of returns out of the franchise leagues that they were expecting. So I think this is actually good. It's definitely a good thing, because it's just we're getting some steam out of this bubble, right? We're getting into the more correct sized bubble now instead of the overblown one, which we've had for many, many years. I remember like back when Overwatch League was being built, now RIP to that league, and the amount of money that was pushed into that with the kind of numbers and the vision that was there, the projections that were where I even saw some of the projections for the coming years, and I was like, that's never going to happen, right? And now we are in that reality that it didn't. So we see that kind of a crash happening, but I think it's for the good. Now, yes, we will lose some good ones along the way, but at the end of the day, that's the thing that's gonna kind of correct the course and make things better in the long run. I think the one big thing we need to kind of figure out one day or the other in the future, I think a lot of the viewers are going to hate this one, but like, how do we monetize the viewers better?
They are going to hate that one now too. They're really going to hate that one.
It is what it is, right? That's the fact of the matter. I mean, remember when I used to do Pro League as well with you and the other guys, like we used to be on Facebook Gaming for the fact that there was actually someone paying for the broadcast to be on that platform, right?
Yeah, but we're all just sellouts and we hate the viewers though now too, right? Like we just that's it. That's how we're doing all these things.
That's an example, like now because everyone hated it. I mean, it was a shitty platform, but still, in the big picture, because everyone wants to be on one specific platform, then no one's going to pay for the broadcasting rights anymore, whatnot. So there's a lot of these questions that need to be answered, and there's a lot of question marks now that with the franchise leagues in Counter-Strike being shut down and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of question marks. That was a long rant. Sorry.
No, it's all right. It's all right. I because I look at like how self-contained you are at ENCE, and this is one of the things that I preach, because coming 2025, no more pun leagues. Thank God. We go back to the Wild Wild West, which I think there's going to come with some changes of how Valve are going to want to run the circuit anyway. I don't know when we're going to get information on that. I don't know if you have more information on that as someone who's part of a team, but
no one knows anything.
Okay.
And that's the scary part. That's the scary part.
But what Valve have essentially done with the revenue that is able to be accrued from these stickers is teams who can be successful time and time again and investing that money wisely and being able to pump it back into their business instead of having 643 different teams and like having to worry about spreading that money across an entire organization as opposed to just a core group of people, a core business that's Counter-Strike focused. Where I'm going with this is I feel that if you have people who know what they're doing, who have been in the industry, who get help from outside, who can help point these things in the right direction, but actually know Counter-Strike and know what we're dealing with, you can run something that is lucrative and you can actually have like a decent business. Like we're not talking about stupid money, we're talking about good money, but we're not lighting it. It doesn't seem to me like ENCE light money on fire, where a lot of these other fucks, it feels like they light money on fire, and the amount of money that you can get from Valve from a major is insane. That's insane money. It's twice a year. Well, no, it wasn't this year, but in other years, you can be making hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars from stickers.
Valve did well to make up for the fact that there was no second major. Let's just say that. They ran the stickers for as long as they possibly could have.
Yeah, that was fucking insane. Like the numbers that I've heard around the sticker sales from the Paris major, absolutely mental. Like it feels like Counter-Strike looked after Counter-Strike. Is that the impression that you get, Natu?
Yeah, I guess so. But at the same time, also like I said, there's a lot of unknowns that I think, especially for someone who's running a business, it's a bit hard to try to budget or think of the feel like, who knows, next major they just decide there's no stickers. For obviously it doesn't make sense that there would not be, but they technically could do that. So imagine you're making a budget thinking, okay, with this type of a team, we're gonna make the major, and we can estimate an X, Y, or Z amount of money out of it. We can build different scenarios, and then all of a sudden you end up with no sticker whatsoever, and then your whole year is gonna look way different, and then you're gonna have to make a lot of changes. So that's like, I understand, like you're one of the guys who is massively against the franchise leagues, and I agree on a lot of the points why they suck, but also there is the financial part that actually that was like the whole leading idea of how why franchise, semi-franchise leagues, whatever you want to call them, were built, was because of the fact that there were so many financial unknowns in the space, and teams wanted to kind of collectively try to crack those issues.
Didn't now I want to I'm trying to find this tweet. I don't think I'm going to be able to find it in time, but after these announcements came out from Valve about how things are going to change, I swear allu made a tweet saying that there was still going to be like rev share from Pro League to the teams who are playing in Pro League. Yeah, so
I don't know about
Pro League
just, but he was talking about, I think, the whole ESL Pro Tour, but I could be wrong.
The whole Pro Tour.
I mean, because Pro Tour, because the partner teams get some revenue share from the Pro Tour as well, depending on how, I don't know, I don't remember what the exact things are, but that might be the case. But I don't want to misquote because it's been a while since he released that tweet.
Yeah, that was a while ago now, wasn't it? Things definitely changed quite drastically in that. Well, you guys are an ESL partner team now too. Is that something that I guess the discussions now going forward is about winding that up this next year, like 2024? Is anything different, or it's just business as usual for 2024, and then 2025 we just cut it off?
I believe so. 2024 is going to be business as usual, as far as I know. Don't quote me on this, but then what happens beyond that is still all up in the air. I believe, you know, there is some kind of connection also with Valve to kind of like not backpedal, but have an actual conversation, you know, of having different views. Like, I'll just put this example out there from an ENCE perspective. You know, I've always thought about this. Like, if we were not a Louvre team in 2020, I don't think ENCE would be here today in this shape and form whatsoever. Because when we were rebuilding the team for 2021, like, that was the selling point we had, that there's this backbone of the 2 Pro League seasons a year. Like, for example, Snappi had a better deal out there in terms of money from another team that he could have chosen to take, but instead came to us to build a team. So if we were not a partner team in ESL, I think I think the history would be a lot different from an ENCE perspective after what happened in 2020.
It's a bargaining chip with trading players and stuff, right? Because it's guaranteeing tournaments, guaranteeing places for them to play, which is what they all want to do, right? They don't want to be fucking sidelined.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and there's financial sides to it too, right? Like, teams are also giving part of the rev share to players as well, so there's always a monetary value to it as well.
Okay, so the future is uncertain, which is pretty normal, but for the next year, we are just going to go business as usual with. The thing that I like about next year is we get the second major as the end of the season. So we get to see how it functions. Like, after we come out of the player break in the middle of next year, which I think is in July sometime, June to July. Then when we come out of that, then we have that run in. We actually get the run in. We get like an evenly split year, and then we get to see what things are going to look like a little bit more with that income 2025. Obviously, this means that ESL and Blast are going to have to change the way they structure some of their events. I think there'll be other players getting back in. Like, this would maybe be an invitation for PGO to run something that's not a major, maybe for StarLadder to start getting involved again if they're still around, right? So maybe we get some of these orgs back in. But again, then this is where it becomes, I guess, for an org, like a team, then how do you pick events? You're just picking the event that has the biggest amount of prize money. So that, like, how else are they meant to be able to incentivize you guys? It's like also the quality of events, like what is given in terms of, you know, flying 7 people, having prac rooms. I think that's all pretty standard these days, but you have to go up to weighing things differently, because the way it's been done for the last few years, you know what you've been getting most of the time, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's kind of going back to the past, to the times of when I was doing the talent stuff, and I was always frustrated to how many different events there were going on at the time, right? And a million different organizers trying to battle it out against one another, trying to find space. And, you know, I remember the best of times when I was flying home on a train 5 p.m. and then getting a check-in notification for next morning 5 a.m. for a flight to go to the next event, because everyone was ramming the calendar. So that's kind of one of the fears I have, that this will get even more crowded. There'll be even more fiercer fight in terms of tournament operators and organizers, and it becomes like an arms race in that sense. But I guess positive fact is that we will have different operators having the opportunity to put these events together. So remains to be seen what are going to be the the selling points for these organizers.
I mean,
Why?
there's talk behind the scenes, and I don't want to read too much into it, but I got the slight indication that there's going to be more control from Valve in terms of what that dynamic from 2025 was going to look like, just because, I mean, they said something along the lines of that they will have a certain rule set for all of their ranked events, and it's not going to work as it is now, where the Valve ranking includes everything that is effectively on HLTV, because we're the ones who are providing them all with all the data. But that there will be some sort of a choosing process for what will constitute a ranked event for them and stuff like that. So there's certainly going to be some level of control over that, and them being able to choose what's a ranked event. And if it's not, then that's going to be also a bargaining chip for, or rather, whatever is a ranked event is going to be bargaining chip for the tournament organizer to be able to attract those teams, right? So, like, from that perspective, I feel like there's definitely a plan from Valve. I don't know what it is exactly, but there's certain talk out there that it seems like there's going to be some level of control from them over the circuit. We will see what that entails. I haven't heard enough details.
Slightly monetizing for these TOs as well, in a way, because that's the thing. If you're going to be selected as like an event, then there needs to be some way for the TO to look to monetize in that. Now, I don't know what model they could look to do that. Maybe more to what Natu was mentioning earlier. I don't think would do the Valve seem very against the pay-per-view stuff, right? They don't really. I remember in Dota we had that whole kickoff a couple of years ago, even when some streams were getting DMCA'd, and that's anyway. So they seem to want to keep it open. So there has to be some way to put money back into the pockets of the TOs. But I remember I was having a chat with Valve. This was a couple of years ago, and I was like, "Oh yeah, there's got to be a way to help the TOs." And the sentiment was, "Well, if we give them more money, they're just going to spend it." I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess they are just going to like." It's not like it's going to put It's not just going to put the books into black, right? They're not just going to go from like being in the red and being like, "Oh, we have no money, events make no money," to just going, "Oh, okay, well, we have shitloads of money." Like that's not going to happen. Especially when you look at like these massive businesses like EFG, ESL, right? They're doing everything under the sun. So even though I imagine Counter-Strike and Dota are, well, I don't even know if their money sinks. I don't think that's even a fair surmise these days. I don't think that's probably where they're blowing their cash. All right, gentlemen, do we have any? Yeah, sorry, Striker.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to bring the conversation back onto ENCE, and like now that we're kind of in the future talk and all that stuff. I mean, we've spoken about the changes that have happened so far, but I mean, indication from behind the scenes is that that's potentially not the end of all changes. And I'm curious if how much you can comment on what the future of ENCE is short term, in terms of the lineup and leading into 2024.
In this business, you don't know what you wake up tomorrow for, so anything can happen at any point in time. To be fair with you, but right now we have this team, and yeah, it's that's what we're going with. So I mean, there's nothing really more to say to it. But yeah, esports is a business where you never know what's going to happen tomorrow.
There you go, Striker. Does that answer your question?
I mean, it answers my question. Yeah.
I mean, it is muted, and it's exactly what it is.
Oh shit, Prof, are you okay? Are you with us?
Yeah, bro, it's a hard out struggle. No, I've been like my microphone is not muted. It was not muted, but it got bugged. So like I was trying to ask questions, and I'm like, why is this Chad guy just cutting me off all the time? Like, okay, I'll wait for my next opportunity. I do it again. It's now Striker is talking. I'm like, okay, what the fuck? And someone in chat, you're muted, and whoever that is was right. That's amazing.
Shit.
Thank you.
All right, nice try. Your questions.
I just wanted to ask. I wanted to just rewind just a bit to the whole like Valve thing that Striker was talking about, and ask Natu how he feels about that concept of like Valve having more say on tournaments and stuff like that. What's your like first instinctual thought about that?
My first instinct says like they don't like. Why would they want that? Because they never want to even have a conversation. Like you send an email to one of them, they might respond if you're lucky, and that's about it. But like, when have you ever had any conversation or like a back and forth with Valve? Like, it's just not a thing. They say what they want to do and how they want to do it, and that's the way it's gonna go, right? So that concerns me as a fact that there is no relationship like at the conversation that I'm aware of. Because it would be great to actually be able to give the view from different angles. There's always the different angle of from a TO's perspective, from a team perspective, from a player perspective, from an agent. Like there's a lot of different parts in this business that are making their livelihood through the game, and they obviously have different type of issues or concerns. So it would be great to have one, but I feel like it's going to be a one-way street.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem essentially what Valve's whole ranking that takes into account prize money, like as a big factor. It just seems like, yeah, whoever puts in the more money, that's better for the game because like bigger tournaments, more to win, right? But I think that could almost like deteriorate some of the other things because people can be like, okay, what's the point of doing a 500,000 tournament and having all of the fancy stuff, 7 rooms and this and that, when you can just like put that in the prize pool, which will make it like a more worthy Valve ranking event, which gets you the teams. Like this is all a lot of speculation, but like it seems kind of a short-sighted, very simplified approach that can have so many holes. And like I really dislike the same thing that you're talking about. Like Valve doesn't have the level of involvement, never had, to be that diligent about these events, to really understand the differences and the nuances, and like, this tournament should be here. Like they kind of do things pretty willy-nilly, and I feel like that could be just end up being worse overall than what we have right now. I think just another thing, because you're talking about kind of the importance of having the partner slot and like the revenue share that comes with that. Can you tell us like approximately for an ENCE team in the last 2 years, where does the money come from? Like what's the revenue share between, like, if I can guess, it's like maybe 30-ish% is that kind of partnership revenues, maybe some like small prize money cuts and stuff like that. Then there's like sticker money, probably kind of the same, and then sponsorship kind of the same, and then I guess like 10% maybe merch and other smaller stuff that comes in. I guess like player sales, that kind of comes and goes, not really a stable income and not something you can bank your. Am I kind of close to income?
Yeah. No, you are pretty reasonably close to like where the revenue streams are, for sure. And we're always looking for the next pillar, the next thing that we can try and build a bigger pillar. But yeah, I mean, for sure, in a sense, it is a positive trend that is less the commercial like sponsorships and partners that are the percentage of the revenue is getting smaller because there's a lot of variables. But then when these type of variables, for example, like the stickers or like in-game revenue, digital items or whatnot, they take a bigger portion. There's of course like the question mark always. You kind of then it becomes like a race that you have to be a part of the major, to keep your business profitable. But is it a good or bad thing? Like it depends on who you are and what, like which angle you're looking at it from. For me, it's fine. It's part of the fun. That you have to actually be competitive to make the business work.
Meritocracy. And we love that. Yeah, don't we love that around here? All right.
Here's just one last thing I wanted to ask about. It just came up to me that you guys have kept the exact same academy team throughout, I think, ever since you started it. Is that right?
Yeah. That is
it's
actually
the exact
true.
same lineup, right?
Listen. The fun fact is that it is the longest standing Finnish lineup since the 2018-19 lineup that made the Katowice major final.
That is kind of cool. I'm just curious about, so like usually like the idea of academy teams is like, okay, you bring some players, you figure out if they are good enough either to make it to your main team or maybe good enough to sell to somebody else. It is kind of like a farm thing in a lot of people's minds, whether for your own purpose or for other teams when you don't have spots on your main roster, But obviously, like, this is not necessarily what you're doing, because like you wouldn't keep the same 5 if you didn't have some sort of a plan for it. So can you explain the philosophy behind the academy team?
The whole academy program was basically like it was an outcry for the fact that there was no Finnish players that we could sign into our team, right? Like we had to go international at one point, and even more so now we're in a situation where we have 0 Finns in our main CS team. And of course, we feel sad about that fact. We are a Finnish organization. That's we're from. I'm Finnish. You know, everyone that most of us who work at ENCE are Finnish. So we wanted to kind of start salvaging the Finnish Counter-Strike scene in the way that we give something for the youngsters to aspire to be a part of. And I think the Finnish, like in the big picture, Finnish Counter-Strike is such a kind of long ways behind in the big picture that it feels like actually fielding a stable team and learning and teaching them in the long term makes a lot more sense. There will be changes for sure at one point, like it's evident, but we also have what we call a prospect group, which is, if I'm not mistaken, it's around 10 players, which is like players outside of the actual lineup. And then we consider those players also to maybe be part of the academy in the future. I think for next year, who knows, you know, maybe we'll make teams out of them, things of that nature. So, and also there's one limiting factor in Finland right now that we cannot have kids under the age of 16 technically as part of the academy because of legislation, the way those type of things go. So we're kind of hindering ourselves as a nation as well, not being able to get the 13-year-old kids, the prodigies, young, like, which would make a lot of sense to try to get into. Yeah, exactly. To get them into the professional environment to practice, right? And learn the ropes early. But yeah, no, I mean, does that answer your question? I'm not sure, but
yeah, I mean, just generally, because like it just hit me like, I don't know, a couple of days ago when I was looking into the academy team, I was like, this is the same guys that I did that feature around the academy team when you guys built it, which is, I don't remember which when it is now. It's like a year and a half ago or something like that.
July 2022. Yeah, July 2022.
Okay, so that is pretty much the timeline, you know. And I was like, that is very unique for an academy team. That just doesn't exist anywhere else. Like, you would look at any academy team you want, and basically every couple of months they're changing rosters. Like, there's very little retention of the players, you know. I'm curious how you, like, first of all, how you justify that from the perspective of, like, do you not have anybody from the prospect that could potentially come in to make that team better? Or, you know, does nobody, you know, like, for example, Potty, you know, has been a guy that's been putting up really crazy stats, you know, for that tier. Like, was he not good enough, or was there not a spot for him to make it to the main team, or, you know, to be sold off somewhere else, and then you know, bring up somebody else, you know, to keep that rotation going, you know, to be able to kind of have an impact on more players, let's say?
I feel like it's just kind of ended up being this way because there has been interest from teams for various different players that have been like numbers wise performing in maybe specialist roles, you know. Hard to guess who I'm talking about here for sure. But yeah, there's been interest for sure, and things could have turned out differently, and then that would have caused a natural rotation in the players for sure. But it just hasn't panned out that way. We've even considered that as would it be a good thing, whether it's a good thing that they are sticking together, or whether it's a good thing that we are shipping players to maybe another team, or be loaning to somewhere, or being sold to another team, whether it be Finnish or international. And it just kind of has worked out this way. And I don't, like, for me, it's fine that we're kind of committing a bit more long term into these guys. And in the meantime, having the prospects group also, and we're going to be expanding that for the next year. And yeah, I guess we're slow Finns. We just take our time.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, and then yeah, of course, like someone like Potty, for example, a phenomenal player, a talent for sure. Problem is he's an opper, and you know, we have a pretty good opper in our team right now, so hard justification to, you know, move him to the main team.
Yeah. And you guys don't seem like the type of organization who, you know, who would push your team to prefer Finnish players just because of your heritage, you know. Like, it seems like you were trusting at least in Marco and Saw, you know, and in their expertise.
Yeah, it's not the first thing you ask in a job interview when you come to ENCE to show us your birth certificate, your passport, you know.
Often you go to the sauna and, you know, all of these other important questions.
Of course, we would love to have Finns, but yeah.
In the sauna.
In the sauna.
Someone actually asked in chat, like, what about Jimpphat? And, like, why didn't you get him? But, like, he was probably under 16 when he signed for ENCE Academy. Was that, like, a factor?
I think he was about to turn 16, and like, we were putting together our academy as he joined ENCE NXT, and he was the first kid that we we talked to. So yeah, for sure, we wanted him to be a part of it. But at the same time, we had healthy, really, really good conversations with him as well. And Miles NXT was, you know, the best academy.
They're the best academy. Like they're proven to like lift up players.
It worked out for him, I would say.
Yeah. So we were like, hey, you know, it makes sense. We're still like, we didn't have a lineup at that point in time. We had only hired a guy. Basically, academy at that point in time was like 6 or 7 pages of PowerPoint that I had made, and we had hired a person to start running the program. So we were very early days. We took 6 months to even get a lineup. So that's, I guess, you know, kind of goes to this point I was saying that we're slow. We take our time.
All right. Gentlemen, are we cool to shift into Skinionaire now? Is everybody happy with this?
Yeah,
Everyone happy? We can ask Natu more questions as we go along. All right. Natu, you remember Skinionaire?
Yeah, I've watched. So yeah, I might need some.
All right. Well, tonight under the bright lights, sparkling like a print stream. Look at that. We're doing a bit of product placement here as well. Trader.gg Skinionaire. 5 questions, multiple choice. I did the questions this evening, so some of them are tailored to you, some of them are tailored to ENCE, some of them are tailored to Finish Strike. Now, these are going to get progressively harder as we make our way through 1 to 5. Are you ready to get things underway? The people at home, they're already one step ahead. Type Trader in chat right now for your chance to enter the raffle. How many questions Natu gets correct will determine the skin value that we'll be giving away here today. Everybody ready?
Yeah. Should I have something open to actually do this?
I can do it for you. You just tell me the answer and I can whack it in if you want, or I can give you a link. So it's up to you. Do you want the link?
Either way.
Nice. The link is nice.
Okay. There's the link. That's the link right there.
Cool.
And yeah. Okay.
I have it open.
Striker can give you a hand on a question or two if you want as well, because he hasn't seen these. So we'll go from here. Okay. Lucas, are you ready? Yeah, I'm ready. Good. All right. Question number 1. Lurpus has been very vocal on Twitter about shorting what? TSLA, EG, or the US dollar?
Well, this is a pretty straightforward answer. I'll just click it.
Hey, Tesla. Now, has Tommy met Elon Musk?
That's a good question. If I would have to guess, I would say yes.
Yeah, they're met?
Probably best friends.
Yeah, okay, and they're still going down like that. No, yeah, I reckon they'd get along. They go out for some afternoon walks. Both of them are like robots.
He's still not banned from Twitter now that Elon Musk actually owns the company. You know, that's suspicious to me.
Yeah, that's a good point actually, Striker.
He did take his Twitter private though.
Oh, that's why I was searching for his Twitter. I couldn't find it. Okay. And it's just at Tommy now, or at least it was. I couldn't find him. I was looking for him. I couldn't find him. All right. Okay. That's question number 1 done and dusted. Let's move on to question number 2. ESL 1 Katowice qualifier Natu couldn't attend due to his wedding. Who stood in? Was it Angel Dust, Nasu, or Zati?
I mean, I know the answer, but I'll ask you guys. Like whoever hasn't seen the
it'd be Striker.
Nasu, no?
Huh?
Was Nasu?
Negative.
Okay, then. I mean, it wasn't Angel Dust. It must have been Zarte then.
Yeah, Nasu.
I mean, it wasn't Angel Dust. Source Legend.
Yeah, actually, and also a co-founder of ENCE.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was Xarta, who then also played the major instead of allu.
Okay.
I remember Anders hyping him up a lot on the cast. This is my memory of this player and this tournament.
Yeah.
If Natu didn't go to his wedding and came to the qualifier, then we might not have actually qualified for the major. So thanks for going to your wedding, Natu. Appreciate that.
And the funny part is that we didn't even play until Sunday. My wedding was Saturday, so I could have technically just flown over, right?
Play. Fucking hell. Well, it's good you didn't. They'll say that. It took down you boys. Well, not you. Well, you weren't there. And Pimp with fucking Dignitas or whatever it was at the time. So that's why I got this one in here. Wanted to have a little bit of a shout out to myself, inflating the ego more and more. Okay. Question number 3. Who was the last Finnish player to compete on ENCE's starting roster? Was it Jimpphat, Doto, or allu?
I believe it would be Doto, right? So, because, Jimpphat left when the international team happened. Allu left at the beginning of summer 2021, or was it maybe springtime. So
It was
yeah,
spring, I think. Yeah.
yeah. So Dota would be the answer.
I don't know if I've done if these are too easy.
I mean,
this is
you
my
are
first time
asking the
doing
guy
the
who was like
quiz.
literally there doing the moves sometimes, you know. So it's hard. It's hard not to.
Yeah, but you know, that was a couple of years ago. For me, I can't even really remember what I did yesterday. So it's interesting that he's, you know, the recall's there. It's great, and we're getting older too. The brain starts to have a bit of wear. Okay, question number 4. ENCE vs FaZe in Dallas semi-final. Map 3 Ancient. How many rounds were played? 54, 59, or 64?
These questions are going from 0 to 500. I love it.
Yeah, no, I remember watching this map and I moved, thank God I moved to my bed with my laptop to watch it for the third map. But wasn't it 59 rounds? Am I imagining this?
I mean, that would have been 31 to 28, right? I think that seems like it's very plausible to me.
Yeah,
I feel like that was the number, but I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I'm just gonna lock it in because that was my intuition telling me. So I trust my
Gut
intuition.
feeling.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, you are correct. 4 out of 4, and smashed
There
that
we
one
go.
as well. It was 59 magnificent rounds of Counter-Strike, and that's the fun Counter-Strike I hope we still get with ENCE going forward, because that type of a game was fantastic. I loved watching that shit. That's what it's about. The slobber knockers. All right. We're gonna stick with numbers here for question number 5. This one here is probably the difficulty level too high, but we'll see how we go. So question number 5. Average age of new ENCE roster is 24.5, 25.8, or 26.7.
I haven't looked this up. I have no idea.
Well, I can tell you gla1ve is younger than Snappi.
I'm aware of that. Yeah, he's like, what, 5 years younger?
That's
I think
actually
gla1ve's
kind of
28.
insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Marco looks like he's 19, so. Wow. I mean, the rest of the guys are pretty young, so I literally have no clue. I have no clue. I need some help here. Unless
I don't know.
Okay.
You might as well just shoot whatever your first instinct
Pius is around, what, 20, 23-ish. Dika is 25, 26. Who do we have? Madden is around 25.
So maybe 25.8 would be.
And then who's the last?
5 seconds.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go 25.8.
The gut feelings. They've done it again. 25.8, the correct answer. That's 5 from 5. The confetti comes falling. The lights are spinning around. The people can't believe it. They're coming out with the roses, the trophy. Natu's done it. Who wants to be a Skinionaire? Well, he does. Trade it.gg, 5 from 5. And we're going to pick a winner in the chat. Natu, congratulations. Do you have anything you want to say to your friends, your family, everybody watching at home for this massive achievement?
I would have never believed I actually got all this right. I've been watching these a few times and been yelling the wrong answer to a lot of people. So actually got them all right. So I'm very proud of myself right now.
Diaz 26. I thought he was way younger.
I wouldn't have been able to tell you how old he is. I'm gonna be honest here.
Hold up. I gotta lean closer to my screen to be able to read this. I can't read it. 1 second.
Nichols Music.
Nichols Music. Okay, congratulations to Nichols Music. You can thank Natu for your 5 from 5. We will be getting a skin. Well, not a skin. We're getting the value of a skin over to thanks to trade.gg. Yeah, our people will contact your people and we will sort that one out. All right. Well, that is the hot seat done and dusted. Are we ready to keep things moving, keep chugging along, see what topics we can get into? Everybody happy? Everybody ready?
Maybe a short break. We do that before.
Yeah. Okay. Let's run some
I
ads.
haven't been around for a while, but we still have to do that. You know,
we got to pay the bills. We got to pay the bills. Be right back, everyone.
It's a good vibe, it's a good vibe, it's a good vibe, good vibe.
Best esports odds. VIP program and a variety of bonuses. Fast and easy withdrawals. Bet on every possible CSGO matching tournament, as well as any other esports game. Only on 22bet.
Do you want to change your boring old skins for awesome new ones fast without losing a lot of value and without the risk of getting scammed? Go to tradeit.gg and safely trade your items within 60 seconds. Just select which items you want to trade from your inventory and choose whatever skin you want from Tradeit's inventory. Click trade, verify the trade on Steam, and you're good to go. With the biggest inventory available for the lowest trading fees on the market, tradeit.gg is your go-to whenever you want to play with new skins.
Back from the break and getting into the recent news. Thank you for sticking with us. Now, we've got some hot topics here to discuss this evening. A lot's happening. A lot's been happening all the time. This is quite a tumultuous period as far as changes and ups and downs and people getting benched. And yeah, all of that good stuff is concerned. And it feels like it's not going to stop for a little while longer when we have a few more confirmations coming through the pipeline. But let's get straight in with some of the meat and potatoes. Prof, when we come over for the award show, will there be room for me to play Counter-Strike somewhere, or do I need to go to a different boot camp facility?
If you want it, I'm sure the Reload guys will be able to hook you up. I think you want it, so.
And if nothing else, just call up, go to Yanko's bedroom to play.
See, there we go. There'll be multiple places. I'll just go to Yanko's house. Maybe I go to Kassad and I can join his new team. That's some news that came out when I was. Yes, yeah, I think I might be above the age range actually, and an AWPer. Maybe I do 2 for 1. No, but I guess we can quickly top that one off at the start here. Kassad becoming the head coach over there at Bleed. Now I don't really know a lot about Bleed. I see that there's an article that has been, an interview that has come out here. I haven't had the opportunity to be able to read that just yet. Is anybody able to TLDR this Bleed situation? It's good that Kassad has found himself a scenario to get stuck into.
I have not read it.
That's all right, Prof. Sorry, man.
Can't say I've read it. I opened it and I saw it was intimidatingly big. So I went for the gla1ve one. That was shorter and more topical, more needed with a ENCE discussion. But it's interesting. It's I think a tricky job. Not really. People will be on Kassad's ass now that he was kind of a pretty outspoken talent member, just in general, especially with EG, so if he doesn't do well, I'm sure people talk trash, but he is not building a European team from what I understand. So I think this is going to be it's a lot about the players that he gets. I don't know, I can't really judge him unless he gets like something really good and it doesn't work out. Is there potential? There is, of course. So I think that's kind of where I'm looking to see this op IGL that he's looking for, and after that we can get a good feeling of where the project is going.
Yeah, I mean, he said
some money.
He said something about like having the plan to build a team for and for it to be able to compete in about a month's time, which he even admitted is kind of close in terms of the major qualifiers. So it seems like this project is more for after that. At least, it would be probably pretty unrealistic to expect that team to be able to qualify like off the bat. So, I mean, if you have 0 contracts signed with like 1 month left into the year, you're probably not going to be it's not going to be so easy for you to be able to compete at the major. So all that makes sense. I mean, he was just talking about kind of building it a culture and a structure that's everybody buys into, you know, and that's why the Opera IGL kind of combo is the first coming in, you know. I think fairly like reasonable approach. He said that he had like an Opera in mind, or like some operas in mind that he's about to talk to. So I'm curious about who that could be, because I'm not aware of any of those options. You know, I don't think Shiro is in the realm of possibilities for him, and he's like one of the big ones.
Correct. He says it doesn't specifically mean we're going for 5 EU players, but the core will be European for now. So I just don't know. I don't know much about Bleed as an org, but the feeling that I got is that they do have money, that they're kind of an org that is willing to spend. So it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out, because as Striker, you say, there's not going to be a lot of free agents that are like top tier talents at the same time hanging around. Even if you go down to the tier 3, you're probably paying a buyout of some sort, especially for some of the players that are kind of more hyped. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, he spoke about the ambitions, like kind of vague, in somewhat vague terms, but he said, I was just looking to go back to see the actual quote, but I was going to say, you know, he's not the type of guy, and especially when he's been talking about like how he would build teams differently, he's always been kind of focused on winning and how much like on that sort of ambition. And he pretty much reiterated that in the interview. He said, I'm not going to predict that we will be champions immediately, but people know I don't care about mediocrity. I will always aim to at least be a contender. You have to be realistic first, and we have to go step by step to get to the level we're looking for. So, I mean, at least long term, he wants to be a contender, right? Short term is probably not realistic just because of the lack of, I mean, considering the space that it is now, you know, a lot of teams are already looking for like a lot of the big players, but it seems like even from what Prof was saying, that seems to be at least around the case, you know, that they can build a team that is going to be competitive.
Okay, well, I'll have to do a little bit more reading about that and see where we go. Natu, you got anything you want to say about Bleed?
No, I mean, it's cool to see kassad back on the saddle, in my opinion. Like, he's been off of it for quite some time. I felt like I was always wondering, like, he has a lot of strong opinions on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it nowadays, for sure. But I kind of like it. For me, like, he seems the kind of guy that I've always kind of wondered, like, hey, someone should give him an opportunity to be like a GM type of a figure, you know. Like he's saying, he's not in it for the mediocrity. So I think he would be good at whipping people to make them work for the money. So yeah, no, it's interesting to see like how much kind of power does he have in this project as a coach. And I think in this sense, like, they're starting the right way to build a Counter-Strike team, to find a strong figurehead. Now, I think the next would be getting a solid IGL that he can connect with and kind of see eye to eye in terms of playstyle, in terms of players, and this and that. And then, yeah, the Opera is a very, very big role to fill also. So, yeah, I think this is actually a pretty solid approach they have. It's just all about execution.
I think kassad is under so much pressure. Kassad is under so much pressure with this team just because of how he's been running his mouth around like how he would build teams better and all the EG stuff, you know, that he's been so salty about not getting the keys to that roster and all that stuff. So it's just going to be exciting. Like, I love this story because like he's been the guy who has said a lot of things about how other teams were run and how kind of insinuating he'd do the job better. So now he actually has to do the job better. Otherwise, you know, he will get ridiculed for it. So I'm all here for that.
Well, it's entertainment, right? So he's bringing it to us in one way or another. Yeah. So he's set the situation up for himself, and now we get to see the entertainment side unfold with what type of team he gets to put together. All right, let's jump into talking about G2. Now, G2 have added nexa to the roster. The JKS benching official as well at that point. And you look at the team. Okay, Prof, you see nexa join. What are you thinking to yourself? Are you going, yeah, okay, this is cool?
Nah, it's like, okay, and
that's fine, isn't it? It's like, this is fine. It's okay.
It's not fine. It does not make any sense, honestly. Like, I'm waiting to.
If Saw's joining as the coach, I'm a little bit more excited.
Okay, maybe that excites you.
It's got nothing to do with nexa, but
yeah, that's a hypothetical right there. I want to say that it doesn't, like, I'm just waiting for more. Like, I can't see this being the whole thing. Like, if this is the whole thing, then it's like one of those, you know, when you watch a movie and you know the plot is like, it's like a mystery, or like, what's going on in this movie? It's like, it can't be this, but it's too obvious. It's so dumb, you know, it can't be this. And then you go, there's like so many turnarounds, and it's like, yeah, it was that thing the whole time. You're like, fuck this shit. Like, what is this? You know, that's how I feel. I feel like there has to be something smarter than just like, we replaced JKS with nexa. What kind of a fucking move is that? What does that accomplish in any world? Like, was JKS a problem player? No, you can't say he was. You can.
Well, the story goes that he wasn't vocal enough, right? That's how the story goes.
That is fair. I can understand that. That's
but
a part.
Do you not have enough vocal players on G2 like as it is? Like, you have Nico, Hunter, and Hooksy, and you think like, and it's not like Monte is like gonna be super quiet. Like, of course he's the guy who like takes a lot of the feedback on board, like from what we've been talking about. But like, this is not a team that needs another big personality, you know. So from that perspective, I'm not sure if I agree with that being necessarily a problem, you know. Could be like to do with atmosphere or whatever. Like, people have also said that like he looks too negative on camera all the time, like too I don't know,
it's hard to not expressing his emotion.
I guess, yeah, but I don't see that as like the sole reason for like there being problems.
Would fit in a Finnish team.
that is true.
But like, okay, you want someone that's more, you know, like Boomich on Navi, you know, you want to just like a jolly guy or something. Okay, but is Nexa that guy? And is Nexa like, can you find a player that's like kind of similar in skill level, but also adds that? Like, I feel like this is a massive downgrade individually, and then like to some degree an upgrade maybe in like vibes, you know, vibes.
Yeah, maybe in vibes, but it is a big deal. Vibes are a big deal.
But
I think
then
mechanically
you also
speaking,
have other players on the team that like, I don't know. For me, it's
yeah.
Not,
but why deal with your own
move.
bullshit, Prof, if you can use someone else as a scapegoat and then bring someone else in to fix those problems? Isn't that the best way to do it?
I can only be on board with this if it's also like a Hooksy move for someone else, and then like that balance, that you make two changes that kind of make sense together. But I think this in itself is just like a downgrade. It's just a downgrade.
I think mechanically speaking, it's a downgrade.
Yeah, but I'm just curious about how much that it will affect Nexa, because I mean, you could see that the fact that he went into in-game leading has taken a toll on him, as it would on pretty much anybody, you know, like it's not
as it does to everybody.
I mean, that's the point, you know. And now, but the problem I see with that is like, this has like now been what, like over 2 years since he's done that. And there was like a period of G2 where he wasn't in game leading, and then he was in game leading again and all that stuff. And there was like a massive mess around it, and it was very clear that he didn't want to do that. But he kept doing that for another year with OG, or like however long it was, like a year and something with OG, even almost 2 years or something with OG. And somehow, like after all that time, we're supposed to expect him to go back to the level where he was like before he was an in-game leader and all that stuff. Like, I think it is a big gamble, you know. And it's like, I think people now underestimate JKS's kind of uniqueness in that role. I don't think the role that he was in was easy, and I think he was still, even in the times where G2 weren't the most competitive, like he was still one of the better players in that slot, because the anchor role is one of the most difficult, you know, to be able to put up big numbers in, and he was still averaging somewhere above 1.0, 1.05, you know, or something like that. So I think, you know, it's not an obvious upgrade. If anything, it is a big gamble in terms of individual output.
Do you want him, Natu? Do you want Justin? I can get him on the phone. I wake him up now. Do you need a player?
I mean, you never know, right? Like I said, you never know. If I wake up tomorrow, we need players. But no, on this, okay, like I'm taking my boring business hat in my head again, and I'm thinking, what if, you know, listen, what if Nico squeezed in, like, this is the way that he played the game. He squeezed in so much of the budget with this whole Falcons charade that G2 were forced to make a move with another player and get someone for less money. Maybe this is a budget move. Who knows?
Like there's no way that Nexa would be getting paid the same amount of money as JKS. I would.
As in, you think it would be less?
That.
No, yeah,
100% would be less.
Sure.
Like,
okay.
wouldn't it be a conversation?
Market
like,
value wise would, yeah, for sure. So I mean, I'm just throwing that out there, but you know.
But
But I mean, it also depends. Like, I mean, this also relies on, first of all, what JKS's contract looks like, and like, is it worth having him on the bench for, I don't know, when did he join? Like, like he's got to have at least what? Like he has like another year. He has like another year on his top.
Never mind. Yeah.
What did you say?
I was talking shit. I was talking shit.
Did you just say that? No, I mean, he has to
got?
have at least another year, right? Because he got signed in August 2022, and there's no way they would have signed him for less than two years. And so, like, if you risk having him on the bench for like a year out of that, of course you're hoping to sell him, right? But I don't think that the difference in salary is going to be that massive to be such a big factor, you know? I don't know what happened in G2. Like, I don't have the info. I'm as confused as everybody is about this. And like the stuff that I have heard, I don't believe. So like, and I don't even want to share it because it's like, I've heard different things. So like, as long as I don't have it corroborated, I don't want to share it. So that's my point. Like, I have no fucking clue what to think about this or what to see as a potential reasoning, you know, because I also don't buy into the story that it's all about Nico and him wanting to have a Balkan team, you know, because like, I know Nico has gotten a lot of shit for some of the stuff that he did, but it's also
he gets
like
way too much shit.
But he's also like, I know for a fact that what he's saying is also true. You know, he didn't always have all the say in terms of like what roster moves were happening and stuff like that. I know that the stuff that happened with Nexa that he was in game leading, like all of that was like kind of the orgs doing, and like Malik had a lot of say in that when he was the coach and all of that stuff, you know, like I know that there wasn't just like Nico puppeteering behind the scenes, you know. So from that perspective, you know, even with the detail that he was just about to leave to Falcons and suddenly like everything turned around, I don't think like it was contingent on Nexa joining the team, you know. I feel like, I don't know, it just doesn't compute to me. Like Nico is still a very competitive guy, and he wouldn't do something just because of friendships or whatever. He would do something to be able to win more, right? So I just don't understand the situation. I really don't.
No, I agree with that sentiment. I think that like the amount of framing that Nico gets that he's some like puppet mastermind that's controlling like everything, I think that's bullshit. Like I don't think he's doing that at all. I think his influence is very strong. Like I think that the influence of Nico and you wanting to keep him in the team, especially with a player of his caliber, like that all makes sense. And then the influence that type of player could have on maybe something that Natu's speculating about, like, hey, we got to take, you know, we got to rob Peter to pay Paul, right? Okay, well, you know, that you can understand then maybe because JKS would make more money than an Nexa. We need to get a little bit out there. But I agree with the sentiment as well of like this Nexa thing. I don't know if Nico's gone, this has to be the case, I need to play with Nexa. Why the fuck would, like, where's that come from? Like, is this, you know, that it doesn't add up to me at all that would be the decision. So I've read a lot of stuff.
We have Natu here, and he can say if Monte is also joining the team, you know.
I mean, aren't they like building the next Balkan super team, right? That's the whole thing, right? So you would need Monte for that. You would need Monte for that for sure.
Definitely. And I think they've been teaching Monte Serbian, so he's going to count anyway. They're just going to bring him across, change the flag, away he goes. Look, I did another podcast last night, and I said some things. And there's like there's a few headlines, a few threads. One of the things I want to point out, because I understand English second language and I talk fast and I get like emotional about things. But one thing that I want to point out is there was some misconceptions in a couple of the HLTV threads that I tried to get ahead of, but people are just going to read that guy's comment and just go with it. There was one of them, I think it's called SPUNJ G2 Leaks. And in it, he says, JKS just learned he was benched through HLTV's report. Now, I would like people to go and listen to the podcast with what I'm saying so you can get the context of it. I want to point out that I didn't say that, and that's not the case. Justin did not learn that he was benched through HLTV's report. That's not true. What is true is him not being communicated to by his management for weeks at a time after Sydney. That is true. That's bang on true. He was essentially ghosted. So that went on for a while because I was talking with Justin back and forth about trying to work out what he was going to do, when he was going to go home. And then I think, you know, after the first like week and a half of no replies, we were like, okay, well, Justin, you're probably getting benched at this point, because if no one's talking to you, then that says a whole lot, right? The silence is deafening. But in terms of that, I don't like, again, like I'm obviously going to be biased because Justin's my friend. So we have that as the starting point. People can take that as they want. I don't care that they benched him. I don't give a fuck. Like that is no skin off of my nose. I don't care. Whatever. I just don't like the treatment of it all because I think it's I can put myself in two minds. I can go, one, he's a player for this team and he does what he's fucking told. And I can go the other and I can go, he's a player for this team. He's come in. They've won a couple of big trophies together. They're benching him. We're going into the next major cycle. Have a bit of fucking decency to give this guy a heads up so he can start looking and talking to people and trying to make some plans for himself. Because you look right now at where JKS can go, and there's not too many places that JKS can go. And that might not have been any different if the news had come out earlier. Or if maybe it would have been if he could have gotten into those conversations. So we never will really know. I just think that leaving a player out in the lurch like that while doing all the backroom dealings, and I get that Nico would have been the priority dealing with that back and forth, and I guarantee there would have been moments where he was going to Falcons, then he's not going to Falcons, and that's going to be difficult for the management to deal with, and then trying to work out what roster they're going to build around that because there were also other moves that were meant to be going on within G2. The team was essentially done and dusted for a moment there, and then now they retained 4 of the 5 players. So yeah, it's an interesting time over there at G2, and I'm curious to see how they recover from here. They're not really. I don't really feel like they dropped down too far. I think losing JKS is a blow, but I don't think Nexa isn't going to be able to fill somewhat of the void. So I mean, as far as it goes.
Role-wise, it is a good fit because like JKS's roles are. I mean, JKS's positions are pretty much his preferred roles. So I think like 1 for 1, it makes perfect sense in terms of the players.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't really have a lot more to say about this. I don't want to get animated and stuff. You
did that already. Why don't you save some of that juice for the podcast that actually pays you? That would be nice. Maybe
the thing is, that look. I offered to do this one yesterday, but Striker couldn't make it, so we had to move it to Tuesday.
True, I couldn't as well. So.
Oh, okay. Well, fuck.
So it's our fault essentially. That
I'm just talking shit for a bit, but no, I think JKS he should find a team. I think he should find a team. I
agree.
Honestly, think Vitality could have been an option. I think it wasn't going to be an option. I don't think that was their.
What, for JKS?
Yeah, because they were looking for Hunter for some reason, which I don't think made sense, but okay. They went for Mezzi. I think JKS could have fit there pretty okay. I think
Mezzi's a pretty good fit too.
Yeah, he is. He's not bad.
I think their first target was Twistzz.
That is also that's also a bit of the rumor mill. Pretty much true.
I mean, it just was like that was one of Twistz's options, when he was like considering between like either staying out phase, going to liquid, or like other options. Like his contract was just about to run out, so obviously he had a lot of different teams coming knocking at his door, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then I mean, Heroic need a whole new team. If they go international, then if there's a good mix of players there, then why not? If ENCE lose some players, JKS there, that's also a good fit. So I think he's gonna bounce back somewhere. I think it's gonna be pretty solid. Honestly, even fucking Liquid maybe could have found a spot for him. Could have been an option, maybe. Who knows? But I think he's going to be okay. It just is pretty unfortunate to waste time in a kind of a weird transfer period, for sure.
Okay. Should we jump forward? Do we want to talk about Fnatic? Let's do it.
Yeah,
so from ship management to more ship management. So Dexter was benched over on Fnatic. Well, Fnatic fucking suck. Like, we had Khan on this show. He just talked in circles, man. Like, what are we talking about? Fnatic haven't been good in the better part of half a decade now. Like, what? That's 5 years for those of you playing at home, by the way.
That's true. Like 2018. Did they win something in 2019?
It was Katowice, no?
They won an online event in the pandemic.
It was the first Pro League in COVID. Yeah, they won.
Yeah, but they haven't been good in such a long time, and they just keep making like terrible decisions as far as rosters are concerned. And I'm not saying Dexter was a good decision for Fnatic to pick up. I think that probably was another bad decision that they had made right there. Again, like this whole again, I'm going to be biased towards the Aussies. But I don't think that Dexter to Fnatic was even a good move for Dexter. I think it was just a move, right? He needed to go somewhere after the whole Mouse situation, and now they've just made another shithouse roster. Like, what do we do? What are we fucking doing? Why are we just burning money? Why don't we? The Swedish thing at least excited me because there would have been some identity to it. Let's just keep building mediocre international rosters.
I mean, to be fair, you know, like if you're a team doesn't have the money to make all the moves, you're gonna have to go for some of these players that are either cheap or like are up and coming, and so they don't have some like big power to have some big contracts, you know, or to even have a big buyout attached to them, you know. So like going for a guy like Matas, for example, I mean, he's been putting up pretty big numbers. There was a lot of rumors that his contract was also super expensive, you know, for the team that he was playing with. And I know that Czech teams have been fucking unreasonable as hell between each other, you know, like, and basically like preventing players from moving between each other. So I'm curious about how that turned out, you know. But still, like, I kind of understand where Fnatic is going now, at least, because before that, they were going just for people who were
name value?
let's say kind of who were some names, but maybe weren't some names, like weren't the names that you would go if you're looking to build to the future, you know. And like if you're Fnatic and you don't have the money for big players, you're gonna have to do some scouting, and you're gonna have to pick up some players that have, you know, future potential and aren't like necessarily proven at the moment, you know. So it's more like about this this body move that I'm curious about, just because I mean he's gonna go back to in-game leadership as far as I can understand. And how much that's going to make sense, you know, because I don't feel like for me, I don't understand why Dexter's gone after 2 months, you know, or 3 months or whatever it is that he's been on that roster.
I think it's probably good for Dexter to get out of there. And
but I mean, if you're Dexter, do you think you're gonna have a lot of offers? I don't know if that's the point, you know. Like
he's gonna have a lot of
like
offers.
if he's gonna have an offer, like it could be like NOG, you know, like or something like that, you know, just another team that's basically the same deal, you know, like it's just it's not gonna make a difference. They're also not gonna spend money, and it's just not gonna be run as good as he probably would hope. So like at the moment, I'm just not sure whether there was a good move for Dexter.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I don't imagine him being bench was his choice. But the thing with that Fnatic roster that we would talk about was the age of it. It was an old team, right? It was like with Roy, with Crims, with Dexter, all of them chasing down that big 3-0. So it was always a team that had a short lifespan. And I'm not like, I don't even think the old roster was good. But Natu, I want to pivot to you here. Fnatic are one of the teams to me that feel like esports winter is not going to be too kind to them. I know they're like a legacy name and stuff. It doesn't feel like they don't feel like they have a strong foundation in anything. Are they winning in anything? What are Fnatic even doing? Let me have a look.
They had a good Valorant team, no?
Yeah, they have a good Valorant team.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So yeah,
other
I mean,
FPS games.
Yeah, it's tough for me to say, of course, like, but like I can just speculate. But I guess, you know, it feels like maybe the focus is not in Counter-Strike as much, you know, just judging from the way that they're operating in the game. At the same time, you know, I'm always a fan of people also giving opportunities to players that are not necessarily highlight, you know, super big signings. But then again, you would kind of wish for a brand like Fnatic to then also have the big signings on top of it. But then, yeah, if you combine those two things, I think would be a great thing. But having a team, you know, poor Crims, by the way, he's been around for a long time and has just had teammates change left, right, and center for how long has it been? So
it's like 9 years altogether. Yeah.
Jeez. Oh gosh. Yeah. That's a career. That's a career right there.
Yeah. I mean, I like for once, at least I can see where Fnatic is coming from, because as you said before, you know, Roy was a guy who's 28 now. When he got signed, he was 20.
30.
Wait, is he 30 already?
I think Roy's 30.
I think he's at least 20. Okay, he's 30. So he was 29 when he got signed, even, you know. So obviously, you know, this is not a guy that's going to stay on top of his career for a long time. And like now they signed a guy who's 18 in QB, and I think Matas is 20 or 21 or something. And like for Matas, I'm actually really, really glad, just because he's been the guy who's been like on the radar for a long time, just hasn't been able to make the move up. So, and he was definitely like one of the players who was just the next from the tier 2, you know, to make a move to like one of these teams who are either like a partner team, or at least like making it through those qualifiers, being a little bit more competitive. So like, I don't hate this from Fnatic. I really don't. I think there are some legs to this in the fact that they have made this roster much, much younger, and, you know, building towards the future more.
May I say something that might upset you, Chad? Actually, it's a question. It's a question.
Okay. I like being upset.
Do you like Fnatic's roster or NIP's roster more? And I can tell you I like
Fnatic's roster.
There you go, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing.
If I was picking teams that don't really know what they're doing, there's like 3 of them: OG, NIP, and Fnatic. They kind of live together as these teams that just like don't make good teams. Like they're my 3. I kind of cluster them together because I'm talking to Justin about what options are. I'm like, you're not going to one of these 3 fucking teams, mate. You are not. I'm not letting you go here to die. Like, what are we even talking about?
Don't hang out with that crowd, son.
Fucking hell. Yeah, they're gonna taint your perception of the entire world. Don't go there. Just stay the fuck away. Better off building an Oz team than going there. That's the actual consensus. Like,
I think
better off going to an Australian team than playing for one of those 3.
Yeah, sure. At least you have, the internal fire. And also, if you're good and the team is shit, you can still quit and then get another opportunity and be like, well, he was just on a shitty Australian team, and go back. But I think NIP, they're kind of bad, but this roster change stuff didn't really inspire me. I feel like they're just like going down a bit, and Fnatic's going up a bit. That's how I see it. They're both still not great teams, but it just makes a bit more sense. And I guess NIP is also going to make more changes. Maybe not right away. Maybe in the next, maybe after the next major. But this is not, it's not a finished product. It doesn't have anything. I think if NIP picked up someone like this Mattis guy, I think that would be better. I don't know anything about him, but he's kind of the profile of a player you would want on NIP, like someone that's young and exciting and maybe proves to be something and not just the same old S bag.
I mean, he has kind of like upper numbers for not being an upper, and he's kind of an aggressive rifler. So like from that perspective, like all that stuff, like it just makes a lot of sense for him to move up. So I don't know. I'm glad to see him make it to the big leagues.
All right. Let's keep this train chugging along. Astralis have officially announced the signings of Jabbi and stavn. Yes, Prof?
I don't know. I'm just still enjoying this. I'm still just enjoying this. It's just giving so much. It's giving every day. Did you see, guys?
This whole situation?
Yeah, it's just okay. Giving. It's giving.
Like, I just want to comment on this whole charade. It's like the way Heroic has been acting on social media is like a kind of a crazy ex-girlfriend who hasn't gotten over her boyfriend, and it's just like shit posting about him all the time. It's like anything I go to, like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, it's always this Heroic something about Astralis. It's like, can we stop this already and just continue our lives?
No, we can't.
They have fucked that. They have been this really disruptive force in their life, though, Natu, right? They're sending the text, every couple of months. You think they're just getting over the breakup, and they send that text every couple of months, and then it just starts up again. That infatuation. Maybe there's I shouldn't hit the table. Maybe there's a chance, and then they're back in and they're thinking, oh man, because it keeps coming back. Like Astralis have been plaguing Heroic for forever. Like Heroic's entire reason of coming together was to take that #1 spot. They took it. You thought they were good. You thought they were in a great place. Guess what? Guess what, motherfuckers? Astralis aren't going anywhere. They've been here the whole time. It's always been Astralis. And now they've been able to take, 2-star players. It's Heroic's fucked. They were the best Danish team, and now they're not even the 3rd best Danish team.
They're not even a team. They don't even have 5 players.
Exactly. Exactly.
Dad, you just reminded me of this meme where it's like, a guy looking at the Earth from the moon, and there's like always has been, the guy behind him with the gun or whatever. Yeah. That's literally the situation.
Precisely. Astralis are going to have control of this shit forever. Just the name value, right? And it works out nicely as well, Striker, because Astralis, the stars, they're in space, so it all kind of comes full circle when you think about it from that facet. But are we excited for this team? So Buzz is gone. Stare is saying, how do we feel about this roster? Because I think that Astralis have actually been making good moves in recent times. Like, it's not the Astralis that was floundering and trying to hold on to legacy pieces. You've got some really, really good names now around that of Device, like Blame, obviously, Beast Mode's down in the mix, Jabbi as well. Like, and if Stare can live up to any of the potential that we thought he had over there on Sprout, all right, we're fucking cooking. We're cooking with gas. Like, this Astralis roster could be really good. What's the general consensus on this one, gentlemen?
Man, Stare is gonna get all the fucked rolls, isn't he? He's gonna get screwed, I think, in this, because he was never like the guy who was gonna run in first all the time, even in Sprout, like when he was pretty good. I know that he, like, his numbers in Astralis, even in positions where he was set up a little bit better, weren't good. But it's just, I think it's just going to tank him more. And they even implied that he was going to change some roles, and it has to be in front. Like, there's no way you will put like stavn in front, or jabbi, who has never been really aggressive. You know, like they're both kind of baity. And like I'm just worried about the roles in Astralis, because like when they actually made the move before this, when they brought in Stair and Borup, it wasn't like some amazing signings. Like, yeah, Stair I had some bigger hopes for than he turned out to be, but at least it made sense from a role perspective. You know, like at least you had a good balance of aggression. There weren't so many people who clashed in roles as it was before. You know, when gla1ve was part of that roster and Xyp and all that, like we were constantly complaining about like this team just doesn't make sense. Like you don't have, like there's not enough space to be taken, you know? And I feel like they're going backwards with this, even though it is like the two better performers from Heroic. And it's stavn, who like Astralis I'm sure have had their eyes on forever. Like it feels like at least instead of one of them, it should have been like a Twistzz, you know, who's going to be able to be the guy who takes a lot of space, who's going to be in front. He was already fulfilling that role a lot in Heroic, like who were set up more in like a super pack, you know, that they were like constantly rotating together and they were like switching positions a lot, like in terms of who was going in first and all that stuff. But I just don't know how this team is going to work on T side, especially. CT side, I can imagine, you know, that there's going to be enough, because gla1ve is pretty aggressive on CT side. You know, it's not going to be a problem to make them fit together. But T side, I just don't know.
I think
really don't know.
Question. You said at the start, Stair's going to get fucked. I mean, or just throw him in first. Just lamb to the slaughter on the T side. And on the CT side, just give him all the shit anchor rolls.
Yeah, it's going to be, oh, why is Stair bad? Replace him for, I don't know, whoever the star player in the second best Danish team is. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, you're not really...
But like, are you going to put stavn as a lurker like on the side, or is it going to be gla1ve? Because gla1ve has moved into the pack because of in-game leadership, right? And that makes perfect sense. Like, you kind of have to be central to be able to be an effective in-game leader, right? So is stavn just going to like transition into lurking instead of being the second guy in as he was before? Like transition, you know? So is stavn and jabbi now going to be on the extremities, and then like David devise gla1ve Stair is the pack, you know? Like that's what I'm curious about. But if stavn can bring a
second voice, right? Then I guess he could play the pack stuff with Stair and devise, and then Blame could, right? It could work.
stavn would be the pack guy.
Yeah, because if he's going to be a vocal component in the team, because you also have to think about the dynamic they had in Heroic, right? So that obviously everybody did everything.
He was
Heroic.
vocal for sure, yeah.
Yeah, and they needed to be, because KDM was AWPing, and he can't obviously be doing the same things with the AWP as what you can have a rifle doing. So it could be possible. I think that they have. This is the one thing. If you pick up a Heroic player from the KDM era, they're a malleable player, right? Like they're jacks of all trades. You know, they can do whatever you really need them to do. I think that is also pretty cool, because you get your secondary AWPers down as well for the team. So you fill that kind of void as well. So I actually think I'm excited for this Astralis. I know that there are conversations about the roles, but I think they should be able to work through. I think they have players that can do a bit more. I worry, I think the biggest one, like Blame is obviously aggressive on the CT side, as you just said, as long as he's not in a position where he has to sacrifice on the T side, because I think that'll come with indecision and maybe slow things down a little bit. But yeah. Anyway,
I don't know. I mean, I hope you're right, because I feel like I don't want to see stavn change roles too much, because he was effective in what he had. I don't think that he wouldn't be capable of being on extremities, you know, but generally speaking, like the biggest success from him came as like the second guy in. He was the guy who was being the most set up in Heroic, even in a kind of very dynamic system, you know. So I wouldn't want him to suddenly like change all roles just because of gla1ve being on the team. So like, I hope you're right about this, and I could actually see it happening, because otherwise I don't really see how this team will work without everybody like changing around a lot.
No,
I think the interesting part about this is apparently it was an insane buyout, though, like pretty insane from everything.
They paid through the nose.
Yeah, like
okay,
like I don't want to put out numbers, but very high, very
okay.
Like for the two of them together, like pretty huge, which is weird, because that's not the vibe we were getting, and not what Astralis usually does. But yeah, I think that's it's an interesting thing, because if it's true, then it allows Heroic to make big moves. Even though they lost like their team, they could, you know, reinvest that through other players and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing to keep track of and see how the rest of the transfer season develops, essentially. Because if they did end up paying so much, because there is a major coming up and all of these things, and there are months and months on the contract left for these two guys, then that's not the greatest business ever made, especially if the roles are not good. That's why it just doesn't make sense to me that there wasn't a Shush or a Twistzz, on this lineup, because I think it would just make the team play better, just like we saw when Borup was pretty bad on the team, but the results improved. I feel like they're going to take another step back before improving again. And that for a huge cost,
I mean, it has to be kind of like a move of desperation from Astralis as well, and just from perspective of they're selling their LCS spot, and only I think they're gonna keep ownership of a part of it or something through a company, but I think most of it is going to a different company, so that's where they got the money to spend on this. I'm assuming, because I am willing to put out the number there because I've heard it from enough places to actually be confident in it, but it is like in the area of 2 million. Like between 1.5 and 2 million for the two players combined.
Yeah,
that's the sticker money from the last major, just all gone.
I mean, yeah, basically,
that's a nice Christmas bonus for someone.
Yeah, but I mean that supports the idea that Heroic now do have some money to spend around, and obviously they're changing ownership and probably have the money to spend compared to the previous version. So like from that perspective, I mean, yeah, for sure. But like it does sound like a move of desperation for Astralis, also because they're not going to have the presence in other games as well. So now CS will be their biggest focus 100%. I mean, it's always been like their best team, or like their biggest team along with the League of Legends roster. But now that's a part of the other part is gone. That's where they have to survive. If Counter-Strike doesn't work out, if there's another major that they don't make it to, that is effectively like. That is their lives, like that they cannot afford to do that because they missed out on a massive major,
Yeah. Okay. Well, a little bombshell right there. All right. Natu, you got any feelings about this Astralis roster? What the conversation at the beginning of all of this was that someone correct me when I'm wrong, because I know I won't be correct here. Like Jabbi and stavn were going to be signed with Astralis after their contracts with Heroic were ending anyway. Is that the case? Have I misinterpreted something here?
Can you repeat that one more time?
So weren't they linked with Astralis for when their Heroic contracts were ending anyway?
I mean, no, because they did not actually. They didn't do the thing that Astralis does usually. It's like where they sign them ahead of time. Because you can't actually do that until it's like 6 months ahead of their contracts ending, and it was more than that. So I don't know, I don't know everything about. I'm not a lawyer. I can't really speak to how this was set up.
You're not a lawyer? Fuck, man. What are we doing all these years?
But anyway, like as I understand it, that's like I'm sure if they waited it out, another few months, they would have actually done that once they were able to, but they didn't do that this time because, as far as I can understand, they weren't actually able to do that. Just because you do have to wait until it's like 6 months until their current contract ends. So I mean it's just they had to pay a lot, to be able to get them in. They even wanted to get them in terms of for the full final, but Blast blocked the move because it was against their rules. And I have to, again, I know I said this last time, but I do respect Blast for this because it was a Copenhagen tournament, and if there was an Astralis with stavn and Jabbi and that was their first tournament, that would have created a lot of hype, helped them sell out the arena, for potentially if they made it far enough, so like there was a lot of motivation for Blast to skirt the rules a little bit, and they didn't do that. So again, I'll give them props for the second episode in a row because that's how I feel about it.
Nice. Okay. Anyway, Natu, you got anything you want to say about Astralis?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like it's been eternity since we've had like, there's always been like some kind of a caveat when it comes to Astralis. There's always being like this one part or two parts, this or that, a player here or there, that just kind of has been like, okay, let's see where this is going to go. It's been the Opera a bunch of times and some of the Academy players along the line. Finally, it feels like this is a lineup that's actually sort of like a Final Form version that you can get excited for. And just looking at the name value, this is for sure should be a team that has the capability of being one of the best for sure. It's going to be fun to see how it actually pans out. But for sure, I think you guys are on the money in terms of why, hypothetically, if the buyouts were as big as you were saying, Striker, It's the pressure. It's the fact that it's the whole major that's coming up in a few months' time. You don't want to go into another major cycle limping with a lineup that it will eventually change, Yeah. So you bite the bullet, you take the hit. The relationship with the team who has those contracts is not the best. So you always know there's going to be a price tag that is maybe bigger for Astralis than it would have been for another team. And so, I mean, obviously they had the capital to go for it. Now it's time to go for it. And next up, someone's head is going to be on the block if they don't do well towards the major, right? So
yeah, I mean this major has so much pressure on it just because they missed pairs, which everybody is saying, and like I can definitely say that has been by far the biggest in terms of sticker sales. So like that's a lot of money that suddenly doesn't go to Astralis, and if that happens again, like that is the organization's livelihood, potentially up on the line, because that is the kind of money that we're talking about sometimes. And so
and next is the first CS2 major. So
yeah, it's gonna pull a lot too, probably
in Copenhagen.
Yeah, and
that's a big one.
I'm as much as I can say, Paris definitely was an outlier in the big picture. There was a lot, it was a big one in terms of monetary value when it comes to the stickers and all the income compared to a lot of the previous ones. But you can kind of expect, and I would imagine, I mean, I'm just, obviously I'm just speculating here, but you'd think that they come up with something new for the CS2, first CS2
Yeah, you'd
major.
hope so, right?
Yeah, I was kind of expecting that for the last CSGO major as well, but I was disappointed not to have anything.
They were working
new
on CS2 at the time, they had.
That's true. That's true. Fair enough.
And they're still working hard on it now, I hope. So we need a couple more updates, I think, before we get the game to where we need it to be. But yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah, look, it's not far off the mark. I just think a lot of the grievances that I have, and I think a large portion of the community, is just the game comes out. You don't have half the things that you had before of the game that we were playing for the last 10 years, but you can't play the other shit. It's like, well, okay, that kind of fucking sucks. And I think some of that's been reflected in playing numbers at the moment, but I don't think it'll last too long. I think we'll have a turnaround at some point, and all that hype will come back once we get into 2024. All right, let's jump into talking about, well, actually, do you guys have anything else you want to talk about with this Astralis stuff before I move on?
No. I mean, just again, they missed out on Paris. That's a big one.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, let's quickly jump into talking about Liquid. So we've just seen them let go of all the players that we already knew they were going to let go of. Liquid's has been the most. It's been the most. It's been the worst kept secret. I think everybody knows what this roster is going to be and in the direction that they're going. It's just a matter of time. And now that Patsy, OC, Daps, and Rainwaker have all been kind of dispelled of, we've seen all those announcements come out over the last week and a bit. We know where this is headed, right? It's going to be Katie and Twistzz, Skulls, Naf, and Yakinda. I don't know how I forgot about that. And Zeus coaching, right? That's meant to be this roster put together. They're going to have enough in terms of the North American side of things with Twistzz, Naf, and Skulls. Well, America's side of things, so they'll be able to compete in the Americas, RMRs, and all of that jazz. So that's what the team is meant to be. It's a pretty interesting roster when you put it all together on paper. I think having two quite emotional guys in the side of Katie and Yakinda is going to be, and Twistzz as well.
I think Twistzz is also
really
more very vocal in that sense, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be a nice, it could, if things are hunky-dory as it goes, if things are feeling quite nice, and everybody's loving the honeymoon, I think those three will be great. They'll be jazzing each other up. I'm thinking about ice hockey games. They're going in, they're bumping chests and stuff, and everyone getting G'd up like that. That's what I can kind of see with these guys. I can see a lot of that raw emotion coming into it, and Naf will just still be chilling. And I don't know how Skulls is going to find. Actually, Zeus as well from the coaching chair. There's going to be a lot of fucking fire in the belly with this team, mate. I'm okay. Oh, I've just got more excited.
There's reunions left and right, man.
Yeah, Zeus back to Liquid. This could be fun, right?
Because back to Liquid, Zeus back to Liquid.
We know with the last Liquid moves that they were set up not to be temporary, but they could easily just be temporary in the sense of, well, we took a punt on Rainwaker, it didn't really work. We got Patsy, that probably, I don't know how much money that would have cost, but maybe not too much crazy. we can get rid of these things. Like these aren't these. We're not tying our horse to this and having to sail down Mary Lane. But I think that this new roster is very exciting. They've really taken advantage of where the market's at. I think the one that is baffling to most people is Twistzz leaving FaZe, especially with that interview that he gave. Feels like a lifetime ago now. But do we have any answers on the Twistzz-FaZe Liquid situation? Does anybody want to speculate on why they think he would be leaving?
I feel like Striker knows everything, so he can't say. And I think I know as well a lot. So I don't know. I think it's gonna come out when it comes out. You know how these things go.
It's gonna come out when it comes out.
But I think a big thing is the whole like uncertainty around FaZe. I think that was the biggest, at least like over 50%
teasers right now.
Over 50. I mean, you know, just like everything that happened, they got acquired because they're like in shitty economic situation, and then after they got acquired, it's not the end of the problems. Now they need to figure out the complexity FaZe thing, right? So there's just, what is the future of this team? Are people gonna be, you know, picked apart? No one knows. So I think that was like the biggest part of nudging him into a new challenge. And then I think there's also part of Twistzz just wanting to do something different, you know, in a different constellation where he is not like the third, fourth most important player on the team, you know, in a way fourth, because Kerrigan is more important than him, and then Robs and Brokey are the star players, right? So I think those two factors were. I
think you also have to consider the timing, because like people are now like, why doesn't he just change his mind? You know, why doesn't he just stay with FaZe? Like now that they've been successful, he cannot make the decision anymore. Like if you even look back through rumors and stuff like that when they started, this was during Sydney, that it was already like, okay, Twistzz is joining Liquid. Like that was pretty much set at that point, you know, like even from the communication from like that's the US reporting and stuff like that, before they won the first tournament in CS2, that he was already set on the move pretty much. So like that is the biggest thing that people need to consider, you know, and not like blame him for leaving now that they're winning everything. It's like he cannot change it if he's already committed, you know. I
mean, obviously it didn't mean much for Nico, but I would say it's two different situations in terms of, you know, Twistzz going back to Liquid and then being like, yeah, fuck you guys, I'm staying, when it's also a team that he has a very good relationship with that he wouldn't want to, you know, kind of fuck over, I feel like. So yeah, I think that's what makes it a different situation as well.
Yeah,
I think
it's exciting team. Sorry, Natu.
No, I was just gonna say it would be crazy if this FaZe team, like outside of if assuming that Twistzz is gonna leave, it's not gonna be sticking together after the acquisition goes through. Of course, there's gonna be something's gonna have to happen, because they just simply cannot compete under the same ownership. But you know, there's an opportunity for someone there to jump in.
That would be insane, though. The value of those players, though, Natu. Could you imagine having to buy 4 of them from FaZe? Like they're 4 household Counter-Strike. Now that'd be crazy money.
Yeah, but at the same time, what's like assets for this what's it called? Game Square. You know, they're expensive assets also. You know, they have running costs too, right? So just keeping the players on the bench would also kind of be silly, right? So,
but it's also like how much. I mean,
someone might get a fire sale.
I was just gonna say, like, I don't think there are many
Friday special.
I don't think there are many organizations that would be able to buy out an entire FaZe roster, because like that's in the higher millions for sure. Like especially if you're buying an entire team, whether or not they're forced into it and stuff like that, that would be an expensive fucking team.
Just the salaries, even if they're free, the salaries are going to be
just to match their salaries as well. I mean, it's a massive fucking investment, you know, and it is like they are competitive at the moment, you know, like FaZe would still be able to get like to leverage a lot of money, even if they are forced into the situation, you know. And it's like it really feels like it's got to be the complexity side that gives in, you know, and that is like that organization is sold off. And even like Jason like kind of implied that this could be a possibility, you know, like saying something like I could see like complexity back in the red and black type thing, you know, because like that's their historic logo, historic colors, right? So I feel like there's like indication that it might just be complexity, like looking for new investors coming in. I don't have this like confirmed or anything like that, but it seems like from all the kind of standpoints, like the team being much cheaper, or like even the organization probably having much less power behind it, you know, if you're going to get new investors to take it over, you know, all that stuff, I feel like makes a lot more sense than have it be FaZe, which, you know, CS team alone is would be crazy expensive.
Yeah, for sure. But when you buy in FaZe, you're kind of buying the brand, right? And they're putting like the OG guys who created the brand, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's gonna be fun to see like how it all pans out. But yeah.
I mean, it's also that FaZe is like, I was talking about this before, you know, FaZe is also like one of the most viewed teams basically of all time. Like they constantly pull in the biggest numbers, and that's not just because of the teams that they've been having. You know, they did this even when they didn't have the greatest teams, you know, just because of the names that they had in the team, you know. And like they also, like their stickers, capsules have historically, as far as I could tell, been the biggest ones, also through them being part of that sticker capsule, you know, because they are like shared between those 8 teams that are in that capsule, but FaZe always like pulls up those numbers, you know, for that to be the biggest one, you know. So even from the returns perspective, you get some money back from like more stickers being sold, all that stuff, you know. Compared to that, Complexity doesn't really have any sort of power, you know. They are a big organization, fairly big organization in North America, but it's not like that market is currently being like,
it doesn't have a hh value.
Doesn't have a lot of power at the moment.
Yeah. There's lots of things that we could say here, isn't there? But nothing we know that's really going to unfold other than Frozen joining FaZe. So yeah, no, we can say that. We'll see how many people want to, you know, that's I'm pretty sure that's happening. So let's wait and see. I don't know who Mouse are going to get. That's the next one that's probably going to come into the conversation, who Mouse are going to be replacing Frozen with. So we'll have to keep our eyes peeled on that. We'll see if they want to promote somebody else from their academy team. They seem to be fantastic at doing exactly that. So we'll just quickly jump into the rumor mill. I saw there was I don't know if this is validated. I just saw a tweet about it, but Shiro to Spirit at the start of next year. I don't know if there's any truth to that at all, but that would be interesting to see Shiro and Donk together. So I don't know where Shiro's going or what he's doing, but I thought that was a fun one. And then the other one is obviously about the reports to do with the NRG roster coming together. What's the core looking like at the moment? OC Daps,
Breeze. And like the other two would have been like, seems like it's going to get rounded out with Fang and Hexed. I think those are the two names. There's like Automatic also flying like around, but there was something from Dust to US that implied like he declined the offer, which would be crazy to me considering where Automatic has been for the past 2 years, kind of buried in an EG roster that never really went anywhere. So I'm curious if that's actually going to come together or not, but I think it's probably coming pretty close.
It's hard to get excited, but they're doing the best with what they've got, I guess. Like where else are you going? Who else are you diving into to try and pick up? Like not like EG really, any of their players really showed anything crazy that's worth grabbing. I don't know. Like, yeah, at least I'm glad that an org like NRG is getting back into Counter-Strike, but I don't know what they're hoping their return to be. Because even just to try and grow talent in that region is going to be difficult for a while, unless we do have a big pop off with CS2 and then things start. Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's not underwhelming. Well, I guess it is underwhelming, but there's only so many top tier Counter-Strike players. What are you meant to do? Someone has to not be the best, and not everybody can have the best team. So I guess it just is. It is what it is. Anyone have anything they want to say about the rumor? Yes, Prof. Yes.
Not
what are you laughing
crazy.
about Heroic in chat? Heroic, are you here to talk about Astralis?
There's also Smuya in chat.
Oh,
he's not doing anything.
Heroic heard that I leaked the number that they sold the two guys for, and they're like, "What? What is he talking about?"
No.
The Shiro to Spirit one, I think that could be sexy. I don't see why it wouldn't happen. Seems realistic to me. Unlike some other stuff that people have been reporting. Like, I mean, the thing that you said about even the Fnatic Swedish roster, like that was never a reality. That was never an option. Even with the thing that came out now, like with Harumi being like, "Oh, Fnatic CEO said they inquired about Brolin." Yes, they did, but they didn't want a Swedish roster. That was not enough. They never wanted it. No one ever wanted a Swedish roster on Fnatic. So other people wanted it, but not Fnatic. So just because they acquired for Brolin doesn't mean they wanted Campus and Knock and Isak and whatever. That wasn't, unfortunately, the reality we live in.
Why ruin that for everybody? Why ruin this? That's a fun reality.
I'm gonna be a party pooper a bit, you know. Someone has
Fair
to
enough.
be.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, we've been going for, I guess, just over 2 hours now. Do we want to just wrap up these events that happened and then be done with it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
we
let's
could do it
just jump
quickly.
into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, let's just do a quick little roundup right here. We don't want to keep anybody for too much longer. Natu, thank you for joining us and give us your time this evening. It's been fun. Let's get through these last bits and bobs. Now, gentlemen, over the course of the weekend, we had Blast Fall Finals in Copenhagen, the Royal Arena, and we had ESL Challenger going on in Jönköping, Sweden. Now, one event was a whole lot more exciting than the other, and that would be the Blast Fall Finals, of course. We had.
What do you mean, SDY getting his first MVP? Isn't a big happening to you?
They went undefeated. They beat VP. They would have really enjoyed beating VP in that semifinal. I can imagine just like how fucking fired up they would have been doing that. But yeah, I wanted to just dial in a little bit about some of the headlines. So FaZe not winning. There you go. There's a headline. FaZe not winning. The grand final.
You know what's crazy about that? Honestly, like, imagine this is the last tournament with Twistzz, and they win that tournament, and they literally become undefeated in CS2, and Twistzz leaves after that.
That would have been cool.
Like, imagine having that legacy. You know, you just leave the team undefeated, and you're like, you leave everything for like interpretation. You know, what could have been, and all that stuff. But streak is broken.
Yeah, then the final was pretty boring. It was over pretty quick, right? Like the Vertigo was. What,
I mean,
Nuke
was fun, and there was a lot of twists and turns in that one. I think the comeback was pretty cool. The eco win at the end.
Not a lot of twists on the first map, though.
Jesus, yeah, you had such a rough time.
Mezzi's.
Yeah, it was 113. Mezzi was like 0-10 at some point or something.
Yeah. But what do we make? I didn't watch it live. What was the live viewing experience? You were there, Striker, right?
Yeah.
You were on the ground. What was it like? I didn't get to see any of it live. I was asleep.
I mean, in terms of like vibe in the arena, I have to say I was pretty disappointed for it being a pretty big final. I mean, FaZe and Vitality, like those are two massive teams. You have like obviously FaZe, the most dominant team, and then you have Vitality, which I won the other side. I was kind of surprised that the arena looked more empty than on like the first semi, for example. You know, that from that perspective, I was a little bit disappointed. It's not like it was terrible or like bad, but it's just like it didn't feel like a final. You know, it also contributed that, you know, just the first map wasn't great. It was like pretty quickly. It was still kind of cool to see Flames just destroy everything on Vertigo.
Owned them.
Like it could have been even so much more, because like he was so close to like winning a couple more clutches where he got like 4 kills, but he just didn't get the last one, you know, all that stuff. But I think he was pretty satisfied with himself, because those 2 clutches were like 2 out of the 3 rounds that they lost. So, you know, like from that perspective, I think Nuke was really fun, because like everything pointed to a third map, and then Vitality start coming back. Then at the end, it was also like, again, FaZe take momentum, and they lose the eco, you know, that turned his back in Vitality's favor, you know. So Nuke as a map, like I found it really fun to watch.
Okay. Yeah. And overall, the like I said, the only game I watched live was FaZe versus Complexity, and that's because I woke up early one day. That was a good series.
FaZe were getting away with some stupid shit there again. Like it was like 1v4s from Rain, from Brokey, and there was like another 1v2 from Brokey later. Like there was just like typical FaZe shit, you know, like that, how they win games out of nowhere, you know, like that game could have been another overtime between Complexity and FaZe, like easily. Like that's how Sydney went, and that's easily how this could have gone too, if it wasn't for some of these crazy bullshit moments, man.
Yeah, the frustration for Complexity, you could see it creeping in again.
Yeah,
so that's one of the things that they have to try and reel in a bit.
From the event perspective, super funny going to the arena and then just saying that there's like the LCD billboard kind of outside, and just seeing an ad for the PGL major. And the funny, even funnier than that, when the first day ended, all of the screens inside became the same rotation from that billboard. So you're like, you are at the fall finals, and like all of the screens inside the concourse, right, are just like PGL major, which explains also why
going back, huh?
Yeah, it explains why they're going to a smaller venue next time, and why this time it was not that great. And like the last 2 years, 3 years, I don't know, when I was there, it was never fully like sold out. Like it's the classic sold out where they don't sell 1/3 of the tickets. Like, okay, cool, it's sold out, I guess. But obviously, if there was more interest, there would be more people there. So it just seemed like it was too big. And then with the major being there next year as well, going back again. It's just kind of killing the taking away this, what's the thunder, the storm, something.
Prestige.
Yeah, but this happened as well, remember? So we go back to what was it, 2017, DreamHack Las Vegas. So that's what DreamHack had pitched to be a major, right? But then they got it in Atlanta for E-League, and then nobody went to the DreamHack event in Vegas because the major was already going to be in America and everybody just wanted to go to Atlanta. So this is the same kind of thing. We're talking within the next 4 to 5 months, this major is going to be going on in Copenhagen. You're going to have all the best teams in the world there. It's going to be a major. So
absolute shit show with the heroic Astralis situation to kind of add on to what Striker says.
Teams, man.
Like for Blast, it would be so much better to just allow the stavn roster to go on, and so Astralis had a better chance to do something instead of playing with a dead roster, you know. But it was just shit, you know. Then you lose both of your good teams in the group stage. Amazing.
I mean, that is kind of crazy, you know, that like. First of all, it happened at the time that it happened, and you know, like the Astralis kind of forced this situation where neither team was able to use that full roster, basically. So it's just rough, you know. Like I do disagree with the rule being in place in general, like just to block, you know, transfers up to 3 weeks before a tournament or whatever it is with Blast. I think it's 3 weeks. Because just it does prevent situations like realistically like this, you know, where like we could have had less dead teams playing in the event, which I think is good for everybody. Like you'd rather have fewer dead teams playing, you know. Of course, like the players that miss out on that tournament, like for them it's the worst. But for everybody else, for the viewers, for the tournament, you know, for the teams themselves, it's obviously going to be beneficial if they don't have these limits, you know, in place. And there are ways you can get around the issues that it causes, you know, that you change players like close to a tournament happening, you know, like in terms of organizing travel and all that stuff like that comes with it, you know. But obviously, if you do have that rule in place, like it's good that you follow it, and Blast did. So that's all that I'm for.
The end of 2023 is us being haunted by CSGO's past, right? That's what this is. Like we just got like a bunch of fucking zombie teams just walking around half alive, just like going from point A to point B. Just like it's just ghosts, remnants of these teams with all these changes going on as everybody is trying to load both barrels as we move into 2024 and CS2 really kicks off, because this is a teething phase for not only new rosters but the new game having it updated, all the changes, and then we're going to go through another big change next year as we shift from partner leagues into no partner leagues for 2025. So we do have winds of change in the air as far as Counter-Strike is concerned. So it's no surprise to me that we're having these little, not hiccups, but speed bumps along the way now. It kind of makes a lot of sense. It does just detract from the excitement of the professional scene's actual importance of matches. The only thing that matters is who won the event and who played good in the event, right? Because other than that, we're not building a story, right? Even with the cool thing with the FaZe one that you gave, Striker, was, yeah, okay, they would have won them all and then done. Okay, cool, that's fun. You know, we leave that as like a what if, like you said. But a lot of the other stuff is, okay, well, this team won. All right, half the teams were dead, or they're going to change roster or whatever. So it does kind of take a little bit of the shine off in that regard. But we're not far away now. We're already late November. Okay, Natu, what did you think of it? Were you watching all the blasts? Were you staying up all weekend watching all the games?
I watched some of it, not all of it. You know, I'm a family man. I can't just sit watching, you know, Counter-Strike all day long. Unfortunately,
understandably so.
I would love to, and also I have work to do. But yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun, especially like the FaZe-Complexity matchup seems to just deliver time and time again, even though even Ancient, even though the scoreline doesn't suggest that it was like an amazing game, but with all those, you know, 1-on-4s and crazy things happening, it was just a lot of fun to watch. And also was it Na'Vi Complexity, the match which was Na'Vi's, should have been Na'Vi's, 9 out of 10 times they would have won that game. It was a bit of a nightmare to watch that from a Na'Vi perspective, but yeah, obviously if you're a Complexity fan, you're happy that it went that way. But it was a weird one because there were so many situations that how did they just lose this round? It's a 5-on-2 where players are playing so scared on the bomb side, they're not, you know, they're scared of taking any initiative, where if they would have just both been aggressive, they would have won that round already, right? So weird things, and I guess kind of teething issues for them.
Emma's desk took a beating.
What?
Emma's desk took a beating after they lost that clutch. the one to Halzerk, I think it was.
Yeah,
from Ramp. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
what were you gonna say, Striker?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that there was a kind of a cool story that maybe wasn't talked about enough, and that was like Electronic and Elige, like the riflers of old, just turning up in really great form. Like both of them were like would have been MVP candidates if they went into the final, you know, and that's, I mean, that's great to see, because I think a lot of people have given up on Elige and being like this superstar that he used to be, right? And now with Complexity, he's having this second wind. Like he missed out on the last top 20, you know. I don't know if he would be actually in the running for this one, you know. But like it's kind of cool that we see him like still have these peaks, and the same goes for Electronic, because again, like a lot of people are giving up on him being in IGL and being able to put up those same numbers, and now he has Boomage back, and somehow it just works for him, you know. He was putting up pretty much
not
the
having
same
an in-game lead. Who would have thought?
I mean, exactly, right? But also it was happening before with Hobbit as well, and like he wasn't still there yet completely, but like this event he has kind of turned it around. Obviously, you know, it's still just one tournament, but it was just cool to see that that he was back in his old ways, you know, and that's also the reason why Cloud9 were so competitive.
And we can stay on the Cloud9 topic for a moment. They, with the placing they got enough points to qualify for the World Finals. So Cloud9, I believe the last team locked in for the World Finals, which is going on in like 17 days from now or whatever. You got FaZe, Vitality, Mouse, ENCE, G2, Na'Vi, Cloud9, and Heroic. The only team that I would say is probably missing, and the only team that I would take out of this, and I would bring one in. I'd get rid of Heroic, obviously, because they're not even a real team. And I would put in Complexity, just based off this form towards the end of the year. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. But that's the World Finals we got coming up for Blast in, where is it? Is it Dubai? Abu Dhabi. Later in the year. Yep. We've got Bet Boom coming up, which that one is in Dubai, right? Yep. And we've got the Alyssa Masters, which is kicking off tomorrow. So that's basically the end of the year as far as the tournaments are concerned. And we did touch on the Monte scenario over there in Jönköping. The VP, they just love going and trying to farm these challenger events, don't they? Isn't this like VP's bread and butter, just farming these fucking challenger events?
They're going to Atlanta too, and don't they?
Yeah.
Monte too, yeah.
You get like a spot in the Pro League, or like at least close to Pro League or something along those lines?
There's Pro League in Atlanta, yeah, and I guess there must have been in Jönköping too. I actually didn't. I'm not actually sure about that.
I'm just throwing that out there. Probably their motive to go to these.
Yeah, there is a spot in Pro League says season 19 in Jönköping, and it is in Atlanta as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. And the thing is, the caliber of the teams at the event, it's not like they're all easy beats, obviously, because VP didn't win. There's like teams that you're going to have to actually work a little bit harder against. Yeah, I don't know if the same could be said for Atlanta. Who's in Atlanta? Let's have a look.
It's actually better even, like, because it's Complexity there too.
Okay, Complexity,
Monte, VP, then Gamer Legion, Apex, Mongols, M80, Bestia.
Okay, well, that's not bad. That should be so that will be the final event of note by the looks of things, but for the end of the year, right? So that'll be going on at the same time as the Blast World Finals. All right. All right. Well, there's everybody
in a very
set
different
enough.
time zone.
Everyone happy?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right, it's been a bit of a lengthier episode. I apologize for that. I was trying to keep it, down to the 2-hour mark, but I failed again. That probably will happen more and more as I try and get hold of time, as James masterfully does. Natu, thank you for joining us this evening. It's been great to get your insights and have a chat with you. We don't get to do this very often, so thank you for joining us. Is there anything that you'd like to say to the people at home or just in general?
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. Always fun to be a part of a good show. And if you happen to be in Finland, next weekend, make sure to make your way to the ESL Masters, because we would like to fill arenas here in Finland and get bigger and bigger events happening here in the future. And one way to do that is to actually have a lot of people come to these events. So for sure, Finnish Counter-Strike fans, everyone, come on, let's do it.
Are you
What do we say?
expecting?
Oh yeah. What are you expecting?
Well,
No, I was asking if you're expecting the sort of turnout that was there last time, because I think that came slightly as a surprise to me. That ASPU was such a good event in terms of the turnout.
I think from like, I think last year's Saturday was almost like pretty much sold out.
Yeah.
And it was a very, very good vibes. I think it's gonna be somewhere similar this year from what I've understood. Friday's a tough one always in anywhere really, considering games are already starting at like what 4 p.m. or something, so people are just only getting out of work or school. So to make it to the first game is always going to be tough. And then can you justify yourself to come to the second game later and pay the full price, whatever? But yeah, Saturday should be good, and hopefully Sunday as well. So yeah, last year was great in terms of atmosphere and everything. So yeah, a big thumbs up for me. I was surprised like how good the atmosphere was there.
Yeah, it was enjoyable to watch from home last time around, I remember. I think the thing is with this, and you make a good point, like you can build these events, but the people are going to come. It's the same kind of thing as what Prof was just referencing with the Copenhagen event that we just had. Same thing with how I think Katowice is trending. The thing is, the events can be put on. You can offer everything in the world. You can have the best teams there, but if the people who are coming, they're not engaged, right? The event can be everything you need, but if the people aren't the ones who are making the most of it and enjoying their time, then, and again, they're the ticket. They're paying for the tickets. They can enjoy it however the fuck they want. But that's one way to make your crowd memorable, or make it so people want to come back, or more people who are watching at home want to come to these events. So hopefully another good turnout. Hopefully a good event. I wish you the best of luck in Finland in this next week. And again, thank you for joining us. Quick shout out to our sponsors once more. 22Bet. Remember to gamble responsibly. SteelSeries and Trade.gg. That's been Prof. Prof, give him a wave. He's had a few technical issues. Are you still muted?
No, I want to say to these two guys in chat that are spamming the same fucking message all the time about how does the Blast audience compare to the Gamers 8 audience is number one. What kind of stupid question is that? Are we comparing a studio event to one of the standout LAN arena events that we have? What the hell? Also, do I have to compare every event that ever happens to every other event that ever happens? I feel like that's going to make quite long episodes. And number three, it's only relevant because it's a smaller audience than last time. And we also didn't even have a Friday in the arena because it's relevant because it's connected to the major and it's connected to the fucking shift of the arena for next year. That's why it's relevant. And I don't have to compare it to Brazil either. Thank you.
It's nice that a little bit of me is leaking into Prof right now. I like that. Like a little bit of like what goes on in my brain is just leaking into Prof. It's good fun. Striker, you've been in good spirits today. Do you want to have a little rant too, or are you good?
I actually saw the exact same thing. I'm like, I'm not even sure where this is coming from. I mean, obviously the Gamers 8 crowd was shit. So like, is that what we have to say? Like, it's obvious to anybody who sees it. We need to make
sure that we highlight these things every time we talk about something else.
That's the way. I don't know. I don't understand.
That's the way it goes. Anyway, we're going to leave here before Prof punches his fucking monitor. We're going to get out of here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. We'll be back next week. We've got another guest. We've got another episode. It'll be on Tuesday. Same time, same place. We will see everybody then. Thank you and good night.
Best esports odds, VIP program and a variety of bonuses, fast and easy withdrawals, bet on every possible CSGO matching tournament, as well as any other esports game. Only on 22Bet.
Are you tired of your boring old skins and looking for beautiful new ones? Tradeit.gg is your place to go for easy and secure trades within seconds. Simply pick and choose whatever item you want to trade from Tradeit's huge inventory. Verify the trade on Steam, and you're ready. With the lowest fees in the market and a beautiful, easy-to-use UI, Tradeit also offers you the option to instantly sell your items for cash. We accept a wide variety of payment methods. Tradeit.gg is the go-to place whenever you want to try out fancy new skins. Start trading today at Tradeit.gg.
It's a good vibe, it's a good vibe, it's a good vibe, good vibe.